Chapter 73. I am willing to be a concubine for my master. _1 The facade of Jade Meal Pavilion appeared quite ordinary, decorated with simple and modest elegance. Not as impressive as the Liu family's spiritual talisman shop. But the business inside was booming, not even mealtime yet, and it was already more than half full. After finding a place to sit down, Lu Miaoge ordered 2 dishes and 2 servings of spirit rice from the server. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but smile. Sister Miaoge, there's no need to be frugal on my account. I've managed to save some spirit stones over the years. His living conditions had improved over the past 6 months. As a result, he had saved quite a few spirit stones. Before heading out, he counted them, a total of 306. He left 30 spirit stones at home for family expenses and brought the rest with him. So treating Lu Miaoge to a meal didn't mean he had to pinch pennies. 2 dishes are enough for us to eat. More would be a waste, Lu Miaoge said with a light smile. Over the last 6 months, they had become quite familiar with each other while studying talisman making under the 4th elder. That light smile of hers was no longer distant as it was initially, just a polite smile, appearing much more natural. All right, Lu Changsheng replied, not saying much else. It wasn't long before the server brought a basin-sized water lily to their table. The water lily bud opened on its own, revealing 2 dishes and 2 bowls of crystal-clear spirit rice inside, steaming hot and emanating a fragrant aroma. This carp soup is their signature dish, made with red blood carp from the Yu family of by Lake Mountain. I order it every time I come here. You should try it, Lu Miaoge pointed out, referring to a dish that was a feast for the senses. Red blood carp from the Yu family of by Lake Mountain? Is this restaurant owned by the Yu family of by Lake Mountain? Lu Changsheng asked in surprise upon hearing this. The Yu family of by Lake Mountain was also a major cultivation family under the jurisdiction of the Qingyan sect. With 3 foundation establishment great cultivators in their family, they were 1 level above the Liu family of Qingzhou Mountain. The red blood carp was a specialty of by Lake Mountain. It was somewhat similar to the green jade bamboo wine and emerald spirit rice of Qingzhou Mountain. The owner of this restaurant married a woman from a Yu family of by Lake Mountain, which is why they can consistently get a batch of red blood carp from the Yu family every month, Lu Miaoge explained softly. I see. Lu Changsheng nodded, not asking further, and sampled the carp soup. Immediately, he felt a rich yet not greasy, delicious taste spread from his mouth to his stomach, then to his abdomen, and finally to his brain, leaving a long-lasting aftertaste. Delicious! Lu Changsheng couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. He thought he had become accustomed to exotic delicacies of the Liu family, but this carp soup was indeed exceptional. So the chef here is also a spirit cooking master? Lu Changsheng inquired. While the red blood carp was a type of spirit fish, such flavor couldn't be achieved without a spirit cooking master. Correct. The chef here is the owner of the restaurant, and he is a spirit cooking master. The prices here are more affordable compared to other places, so the business is always good, Lu Miaoge said in a soft voice. She then pointed to the other dish. This earth mole meat also tastes excellent and counts as one of their specialties. Lu Changsheng tried a piece of the meat, finding it crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, juicy, smooth, and invigorating, and he couldn't help but reach for another piece. Nodding in approval, he said tasty. At that moment, he noticed Lu Miaoge wasn't eating, but was simply watching him enjoy his meal. He promptly said, Sister Miaoge, why aren't you eating? Let's eat together. Okay, Lu Miaoge nodded gently, and only then did she pick up her chopsticks and begin to eat the earth mole meat. Her manner of eating was very elegant, yet she ate quite swiftly. Lu Changsheng had only had a few bites when she had already eaten 7 or 8. By the time Lu Changsheng had eaten less than half of his bowl of rice, Lu Miaoge was finished. Lu Changsheng was somewhat astonished at this sight. Hard to believe that Lu Miaoge, a woman as ethereal as a fairy, could eat at such a pace. I normally eat quite fast, Lu Miaoge, feeling somewhat impolite and embarrassed, blushed on her flawlessly exquisite face. It's fine. It's just that I'm a slow eater, Lu Changsheng chuckled, feeling that the young lady before him suddenly seemed even more charming and much more approachable. Indeed, there are not so many pristinely untouchable fairy maidens in the world. It's just that the great difference between two people makes one seem unattainable, creating such a perception, an illusion. When a relationship becomes intimate and you spend time together, things turn out to be quite normal. He immediately gestured for the server to add 2 more dishes and some more rice. No need. I'm full, Lu Miaoga said upon seeing this, taking out a handkerchief to gently wipe her mouth. All right, Lu Chongsheng replied, not insisting, and then finished the rest of the food and went to pay the bill. 2 dishes and 2 servings of spirit rice came to a total of 4 spirit stones. No wonder Lu Miaoga only ordered 2 dishes because indeed the price was somewhat expensive. When he first joined the Lu family, he earned only 2 spirit stones a month. Now had spent 4 spirit stones on a single meal. However, Lu Chongsheng wasn't too heartbroken about it. He felt the price was fairly reasonable. The carp soup and earth mole meat were both spirit food, and even the rice was spirit rice, which would be nourishing to the body after eating. He could still feel the spiritual energy flowing slowly through his dantian and meridians. And besides, the process of savoring delicious food was deeply satisfying, very pleasant. Just then, having seen how adorable Lu Miaoga ate, he thought that in the future, when there was no pressing matter, he might often invite Lu Miaoga out to eat, to build a closer relationship. But now, thinking it over, he decided against it. His current financial situation simply didn't allow for it. Maybe after he had sold all his talismans and turned them into spirit stones, it would have been more feasible. Sister Miaoga, is there a place in the 9 Dragons market where Lu's cultivators set up stalls for trading? Chapter 74. I am willing to be a concubine for my master. Lu Chongsheng inquired Lu Miaoga. On this trip, he also thought of selling talismans and buying the heavenly and earthly treasures for cultivation of the 100 Refinements treasure bodyguard. So he thought of first going to see the Lu's cultivator stalls. At the junction of the Western District and the Southern District, there are several streets specifically set aside for people to set up stalls and trade freely. Although the items there are cheaper than in the shops, there are many scams, and there's hardly any chance of getting a good deal by stumbling upon something undervalued. If you're looking to buy something, it's still best to make purchases from legitimate shops. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoga guessed Lu Changsheng's intent and voiced, a reminder. I'm just curious about this kind of stall setup. Want to take a look and gain some experience? Lu Chongsheng said with a smile. He wasn't holding out hope for any treasures or particularly cheap bargains. After all, these Lu's cultivators are all too shrewd. Having struggled at the bottom, without certain means, how could one expect to find a bargain from their hands? In the midst of talking, the two returned to the spiritual talisman shop. Sister Lu, at that moment, a childish voice rang out. Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoga heard the voice and looked over. In front of them, a dignified-looking young matron with a graceful figure and full-bodied stature, holding a 3- or 4-year-old girl in her arms and carrying a lunchbox, was walking in their direction. It was the small girl in the young matron's arms who was waving to Lu Miaoga and calling out, "Master." This young matron wore a plain goose-yellow dress, her black glossy hair arranged in a married woman's bun, slanted with an ebony hairpin, giving her a demure and graceful appearance. Upon seeing Lu Miaoga, she also quickened her pace, slightly bowed, and called out softly. Her face might not be exceptionally beautiful, merely fair, with arched eyebrows, crimson lips and almond eyes, and a pert nose, exuding a mature charm. But her skin was very white. Whether it was the fair complexion of her cheeks or the skin exposed to the neck, all was snowy white and delicate, soft and pliant to the touch. This creamy white skin, combined with her voluptuous and curvaceous figure, made the young matron look like a ripe peach, giving off a sense of fullness and juiciness. Aunt Bai, Nan Nan, came to deliver a meal to Uncle Zhang. Lu Miaoga obviously knew the two and greeted them with a slight smile and a nod. She conveyed to Lu Chongsheng, "This is Zhang Shan's wife and daughter. They come to deliver meals to him every day. Xianxia inside the spiritual talisman shop also saw his wife and child arriving and immediately got up and hurried out. First, he gave a slight bow to Lu Miaoge and Lu Chongxing nearby, then explained, "Second master, this is my wife. Coming to bring me a meal? No worries," Lu Chongxing said with a smile. He knew the latter's explanation was out of concern that the new co-owner might have objections. Such matters, of course, he didn't mind and would not say anything. It just hadn't occurred to him that Xianxia seemed to be 50 years old, yet his wife was not only a cultivator but also so young, and their child was only 3 or 4 years old. But on second thought, this was quite normal. Most cultivators were older when they chose to start a family and have children. Moreover, although the woman appeared mature and charming, seemingly in her late 20s, her actual age was not necessarily so. After all, most female cultivators would buy youth-preserving pills, beauty-preserving pills. Like Lu Miaoge, she obviously had taken beauty-preserving pills. Compared to when Lu Chongxing first met her 5 years ago, she looked almost the same, still retaining the appearance of a 20-year-old. This made Lu Chongxing think about buying beauty-preserving pills for his own wives as well. He practiced the immortal beauty technique, which not only enhanced his charm, but also preserved his youthful appearance forever. But his wives could not. And aside from Lu Miaoyun and Chu Jinjin, who were able to practice cultivation, all the others were mortals who would age. However, thinking of the price of the beauty-preserving pills and the need to give gifts, he would have to give more than 10 gifts at once. Lu Chongxing could only temporarily dismiss the idea. Lu Miaoge didn't chat much with Xianxia either, merely nodding slightly, her expression cool as she led Lu Chongxing to the 3rd floor. She usually stayed on the 3rd floor, either cultivating and resting or drawing talismans, rarely on the 1st floor. Now, the 3rd floor had an additional person, Lu Chongxing. However, Lu Miaoge and Lu Chongxing were quite familiar with each other and didn't mind sharing a room alone. At this time, Lu Miaoge also told Lu Chongxing that although Xianxia was an old employee of the shop, he couldn't appear too familiar with him. If they were too close, it would make it difficult to manage later on. Lu Chongxing naturally understood this principle and nodded in agreement. Afterward, Lu Miaoge shared with Lu Chongxing some shop matters and management experience. These were all simple and easy-to-understand experiences, most of which Lu Chongxing already knew. He had never eaten pork before, but he had seen pigs run. In his past life, under the baptism of big data, he knew quite a bit about the art of managing people. Of course, knowing is one thing, doing is another matter altogether. Sister Miaoge, I used to think you were the kind indifferent to worldly affairs, but I didn't expect you to know so much. It's like getting to know you all over again. After listening to Lu Miaoge, Lu Chongxing joked with a laugh. Today he surely saw another side of Lu Miaoge, so the conversation was much less restrained than before. Hearing this, Lu Miaoge couldn't help but smile, her beauty blossoming like a celestial flower, captivating. I don't know whether to take your words as a compliment or an insult, but I'll just assume it's a compliment. With painted brows and eyes, Lu Miaoge said with a soft smile, "All right, I have to go make talismans. You can go to the lounge to rest or cultivate." Normally, there's not much to do at the shop, and Xianxia and the others will notify us if anything comes up. Having said so, Lu Miaoge stood up and went to the talisman room to focus on talisman making. Lu Chongxing nodded and went to the lounge to rest. Chapter 75. I am willing to be a concubine for my master. After all, they had been traveling for the past 2 days and hadn't really rested. Although they couldn't be considered extremely tired, they still needed to recover their mental spirit through sleep. After a short nap, Lu Chongxing saw that Lu Miaoge was still in the talisman room, feeling somewhat bored. So he found something to do and went upstairs. He wanted to check on the talisman-making skills of Li Shi and Wang Wu and planned to give them some guidance on talisman crafting. He possessed the 2nd-ranked talisman-making skill given by the system, so his foundational knowledge in talismans was incredibly solid. It was definitely not comparable to those who relied on their self-study and understanding. Not to mention guiding 2 talisman apprentices, even his own grandmother, the 4th elder of the Lu family, a 1st-grade top-level talisman master, could receive a pointer or two from him. Second Master. Second Master. In the upstairs workroom, Li Shi and Wang Wu, who were making talisman paper, immediately brightened up when they saw Lu Changxing coming over, stopped their work, and called out sweetly. Their voices involuntarily softened a few degrees more than usual. I've come to see how you are progressing with your talisman making, to give you some guidance. Lu Changxing said aloud. Both women were rather good-looking, not incredibly beautiful, but they could definitely be considered pretty. After all, they were the descendants of cultivators, so the genetic aspect was generally not bad. However, he didn't have any particular thoughts about the two women in front of him. Although he did want to find a woman with a spiritual root to have children, it was not to the extent of asking any woman he met to bear his children. Moreover, he had just arrived at the shop and hadn't done much. It wouldn't look good if he started making moves on an apprentice. It would not only affect Lu Miaoge and the Fourth Elder's impression of him, but his reputation, which had just started to improve in the Lu family, would be ruined again. It was unnecessary and not worth it. Thank you, Second Master. Second Master, please have a seat. The two women looked at Lu Changxing, said in their sweet voices, and prepared the chair and brewed the tea. What talismans have you learned so far? Lu Changxing waved his hand and asked. Immediately, the two women started to list the talismans they knew. They had been at the spiritual talisman shop for 5 or 6 years and had mastered about a dozen to 20 basic talismans. This was also because, as apprentices, they had to create profits for the shop, so they needed to learn a variety of different talismans. Although basic talismans didn't make much money, as a spiritual talisman shop, it was necessary to have a sufficient variety of talismans. Okay, show me the talismans you have been practicing lately by drawing them for me. Lu Changxing nodded and instructed. Both women immediately took out their talisman brushes, talisman paper, and spirit ink to start the talisman-making process. At this moment, Li Shi, while halfway through the drawing, failed, and the talisman paper emitted blue smoke. She became somewhat flustered and stuttered to Lu Changxing. Second Master, I'm sorry, I got a bit nervous. She was normally very cheerful, but in front of Lu Changxing, she couldn't help but feel a touch of nervousness. What's there to be nervous about? I'm not some flood or beast, and I certainly don't eat people. If you fail, just continue, that's all. Lu Changxing couldn't help but smile and waved his hand. Upon hearing Lu Changxing's comforting words and seeing his smile, a blush spread across Li Shi's pretty face, making it hard for her to breathe, and her heart raced. There were many handsome men in the world, but how many were handsome, came from a good family background, and were also a middle-grade talisman master? At least Li Shi hardly ever came across such men in her daily life. So Lu Changxing's smile made her heart flutter more than usual, and her nervousness intensified. Why is your face turning red like a teapot? Lu Changxing saw that her face was red, with a love-struck expression, and was momentarily at a loss for words. I haven't even done anything, and you're already like this? Unknowingly, has my charm become so great? Lu Changxing couldn't help but sigh inwardly. He also suddenly realized that he was no longer his former self. Not only was he handsome, but he was also wealthy and accomplished at a young age. Such a mundane woman. Lu Changxing restrained his smile, his expression indifferent, and he said evenly, continue. At that moment, he vaguely understood why Lu Miaoge didn't like to smile and always had an aloof, otherworldly demeanor. This was the trouble of being good-looking. Yes, Second Master. Li Shi, hearing these words, quickly nodded, immediately focused her mind, not daring to look too much at Lu Changxing, and started to draw talismans again. Lu Changxing could tell that the two women had a solid foundation in basic talismans. They were almost ready to try drawing lower-grade talismans. However, he had no immediate plans to teach the two women how to do so. Once they started learning to draw lower-grade talismans, most of their time and energy would be consumed in that endeavor. This would undoubtedly interfere with their current work. Better to have the two women continue to lay the foundation until they were completely solid, and then try lower-grade talismans. Soon after, Lu Changxing, with a detached manner, gave the two women pointers on talisman making. The two apprentices felt that this second master explained things more thoroughly and understandably than the senior master, proving extremely beneficial to them. That's enough. Practice more on your own during your free time. Wait a while longer, and if you perform well, it'll teach you lower-grade talismans. After drawing them a proverbial carrot, Lu Changsheng left the second floor. He could clearly sense that, despite his indifferent demeanor, he couldn't deter the two women's enthusiasm at all. He estimated that with just a wave of his hand, the two apprentices would take the initiative to come forward. Yet, he still had no such intentions. It was still the same reasoning as before. It wasn't necessary and the cost wouldn't be worth the benefit. Speaking of which, does this count as peach blossom luck? Lu Changsheng suddenly thought. Thank you, second master. Thank you, second master. The two women, hearing his words, were overwhelmed with joy, and their eyes seemed to brim with tears as they looked at Lu Changsheng. Handsome, from a good family, and a middle-grade talisman master, he was the man of their dreams. If only I could marry the second master, Li Shi murmured after Lu Changsheng's retreating figure had disappeared. You silly girl, smitten much? Is your heart aflutter? Wang Wu teased. With the second master being so handsome and speaking so kindly, and also as a middle-grade talisman master, don't you like him? Li Shi said, defiantly in response to Wang Wu's teasing. Of course I like him, but what good is liking him? We're not worthy of a second master. I'd even be content to marry him as a concubine, Wang Wu said with the same conviction. Li Shi felt a bit disheartened upon hearing this. In the cultivation world, where men outnumbered women, young female cultivators were highly prized. People like them naturally had suitors, and many came knocking to propose. But they both had some talent in talisman making and a future as elementary talisman masters loomed. Once they became talisman masters, even if only elementary, they could expect to marry into a respectable household. But now, before Lu Changsheng, the thought of marriage made them feel inferior. Chapter 76. Meeting the second miss again. Changge takes you to read books and taste tea. _1 After coming down from the second floor, Lu Changsheng arrived at the first floor to check the items for sale in the shop. He looked to see if there was anything he wanted. On this trip, he also wanted to buy a magic artifact drawing pen and some supreme talisman paper and supreme spirit ink. While at the third-level energy refinement stage, Lu Changsheng had attempted to draw superior-grade talismans. But limited by his cultivation level and talisman-making tools, his success rate was very low. He only drew a dozen or so to carry with him for emergencies. Not long ago, after breaking through to the fourth-level energy refinement, he tried drawing superior-grade talismans again, which was still somewhat difficult. He could only draw a few simpler superior-grade talismans, and the success rate was only about 40 to 50%. For other talisman masters, this success rate was already quite remarkable. But in Lu Changsheng's view, it was still lacking. Therefore, he thought of buying a better magic artifact pen, and then some supreme quality talisman paper and spirit ink. This way, not only could his success rate improve, but he would also be confident in drawing the more challenging superior-grade talismans. Whether he'd sell the talismans was another matter. At least having more superior-grade talismans on hand would give him an extra sense of security. Otherwise, what would he do if he encountered unforeseen dangers while traveling between Nine Dragons Market and Qingzhou Mountain? Lu Changsheng began to check the items for sale in the shop. Most of the talismans for sale were the lower grade, primarily. Then there were basic talismans and middle-grade talismans, as well as a few superior-grade talismans. In addition to spirit talismans, the shop didn't only have drawing pens, talisman paper, and spirit ink, but also some related raw materials and books on talismans. Then, he looked at the prices of the magic artifact pens, supreme talisman paper, and supreme spirit ink at the talisman making tool counter. Lower-grade magical instrument pens, 70 spirit stones. Middle-grade magical instrument pens, 200 spirit stones. Superior-grade magical instrument pens, 600 spirit stones. Supreme talisman paper comes in different qualities, divided into fine quality and good quality. Fine quality, 50 spirit stones per stack, 10 sheets. Good quality, 30 spirit stones per stack, 10 sheets. Supreme Spirit ink also comes in different qualities, divided into fine quality and good quality. Fine quality, 50 spirit stones per box. Good quality, 30 spirit stones per box. So expensive, Lu Changsheng said, unable to help clicking his tongue as he looked at the prices. He had felt quite wealthy before, but looking at the prices, he suddenly realized he was quite poor, especially poor. After buying a middle-grade magical instrument pen, he wouldn't have much left. For my current needs, a middle-grade magical instrument pen is enough, he said. Moreover, unlike ordinary pens, a magical instrument pen is very durable, can be used thousands of times, and I don't need to worry too much about it being damaged, he added. Lu Changsheng stroked his chin, planning to purchase a middle-grade magical instrument pen. After all, such an item could be used for a long time once bought. As for the price of talisman paper and spirit ink, he thought they were quite reasonable, not too expensive. After all, a superior-grade talisman could sell for 30 to 50 spirit stones, and a supreme talisman could sell for more than 200 spirit stones. However, being able to sell at such prices was also because of the barriers and difficulties involved. Like Fourth Elder, being a first-grade top-level talisman master, he only sells 3 supreme talismans per month, also due to the high failure rate. After deducting the time and material costs, the profit is limited. Not everyone is like Lu Changsheng, who has a knack for talisman making, as easy as eating and drinking. I'm not in a hurry. Right now, I need the spirit stones to purchase the materials for the 100 Refinements treasure body art. I'll go to Southwest Street tomorrow to see, he said. They'll see if there are any materials suitable for the 100 Refinements treasure body art, and if I can sell some talismans to make some money, Lu Changsheng mused to himself. He then asked the shopkeeper, Xianxia, about the cost price for items like the magical instrument pens, supreme talisman paper, and spirit ink. Xianxia didn't hide the information and told the truth. The cost price for a lower-grade magical instrument pen is 43 spirit stones. The cost price for a middle-grade magical instrument pen is 139 spirit stones, and for a superior-grade magical instrument pen is 500 spirit stones. Because the Lu family didn't have an artifact refiner, these were purchased from other places to sell. About the talisman paper and spirit ink, fine quality was made by the Lu family themselves. Good quality was both self-made and outsourced using provided materials, and Zhangshan wasn't clear about the cost. After hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded, deciding to take a middle-grade magical instrument pen from the shop at cost price when the time came. Then he inquired about the shop's daily revenue, sales, which talismans sold well, and the prices and quantities of talismans bought from other places, among other things. Lu Changsheng had an idea in mind. If he were to be fully responsible for managing the shop in the future, could he possibly sell all the talismans he had through the shop? For these queries, Zhangshan responded truthfully, giving Lu Changsheng a good understanding of the spiritual talisman shop. He learned that the business of the spiritual talisman shop was quite good in Nine Dragons Market, generating several thousand spirit stones in revenue each month. It seems that the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop does better business than I imagined, Lu Changxing thought to himself after gathering the information. After chatting with Zhang Shan for a while, Lu Changsheng didn't continue to ask more questions. He returned to the third floor's rest room, found Lu Miaoga still in the talisman room, and began to meditate and cultivate. As dusk approached, Lu Miaoga came out from the talisman room. She told Lu Changsheng that this was the time when they could usually head home. Although Nine Dragons Market didn't have a curfew, the place would be much quieter at night. After all, cultivators still needed to cultivate and rest. And with Li Shi and Wang Wu living in the shop, they could help keep an eye on things. Afterward, Lu Miaoga took Lu Changsheng to the Lu family mansion in the Eastern District. Chapter 77. Meeting the Second Miss Again. Changge takes you to read books and taste tea. From here, it was quite a distance to the Lu family's large compound in the Eastern District. The two of them walked quite fast, and it took almost half an hour. The Lu family's compound covered nearly 2,000 square meters. Compared to the living quarters at Qingzhou Valley, it was naturally much smaller. But in the Nine Dragons market, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, this courtyard was already considered large. Lu Changsheng curiously inquired about how many spirit stones such a large compound would cost from Lu Miaoge. Lu Miaoge was not sure about the exact price. She only said that such large compounds usually started with a lease term of 3 to 5 years. As for the price, it varied from several dozen to 100 spirit stones a year. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. Just the annual rent would cost dozens to hundreds of spirit stones. For buying, wouldn't it require several thousand spirit stones? Indeed, no matter where you were, buying a house was never easy. Upon arriving at the compound, Lu Miaoge asked the house steward if the second elder was home. Now that she brought Lu Changsheng over, it was natural to meet this second elder of the Lu family. The steward indicated that the second elder was resting in the back courtyard, and led the two to meet the second elder. Shortly after, Lu Changsheng saw the second elder of the Lu family. He had white hair, but his complexion was very rosy and lustrous, as if he was a baby. A tall figure dressed in a green robe. He leaned on a jade bamboo cane, exuding an imposing aura without being angry. This second elder was in charge of the Lu family business, often abroad. This was the first time Lu Changsheng had met him. Second elder, great uncle. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge bowed to the second elder in unison. The second elder nodded, stood up to look at Lu Changsheng, and with a slight smile said, "So you are Changsheng. At such a young age you have already become a middle-grade talisman master. Very good. From now on, in the Nine Dragons market, if you need anything, you can come directly to me," he said. The second elder's generous palm patted Lu Changsheng on the shoulder as he spoke. "Yes, second elder," replied Lu Changsheng, bowing respectfully. Afterward, the second elder had the steward arrange a room for Lu Changsheng. He also mentioned that there would be a banquet in the evening to welcome and cleanse him from his travels, to let him get acquainted with the other Lu family disciples, and to encourage him to interact more in the future. Lu Changsheng naturally responded respectfully to these words. He knew that as he was now integrating into the Lu family, such social interactions and affairs of human relationship were hard to avoid. Soon after, the steward arranged a small courtyard for him. The courtyard was not big, only a little over 100 square meters, even smaller than the one he had at Xianxia Villa. It had simple formation effects for sound insulation and gathering spiritual energy. The spiritual energy was not as good as in Xianxia Valley, but it was much better than Xianxia Mountain. At night, a servant came to inform Lu Changsheng about the banquet. Lu Changsheng nodded and proceeded to the hall. As soon as Lu Changsheng arrived at the hall, he saw not only the second elder and Lu Miaoge, but also 2 managers of the Lu family of the same generation as Lu Yuanding and 5 Lu family disciples. However, his gaze immediately fell on an incredibly beautiful woman standing next to Lu Miaoge. The woman wore a white crane-embroidered long dress that clung tightly, perfectly outlining her curvaceous silhouette through the fabric, leaving nothing of her graceful figure to the imagination. But beneath the slits of the tailored hem, one could see her long, straight legs sheathed in thin, white silk stockings, which rendered her already fair and smooth legs with an added touch of a high-class, sanctified allure. Her delicate feet, wrapped in white silk stockings, stepped into a pair of flowing cloud-patterned silver high heels, accentuating her graceful and tall figure even more vividly. This woman was none other than the second young Miss Lu Miaowan, who had been on a blind date with Lu Changsheng once before. Lu Changsheng had not expected this second young miss to also be in the Nine Dragons market, and this second young miss had even switched from black to white stockings. It had to be said, the second young miss had a really good figure, especially those legs, perfectly proportioned. A bit more would be too plump, a bit less would be too skinny, straight and rounded. Whether in black or white stockings, they presented an astoundingly enticing appearance on her. Lu Miaohuan, too, noticed Lu Changsheng, and seeing his gaze linger on her, promptly gave a cold snort, turning her head to look elsewhere. Lu Changsheng just smiled and pretended not to notice. He was aware that the second young miss still held a grudge. That was normal. It had only been half a year since their blind date, and he had rejected the second young miss, marrying Lu Miaoyun instead. With the proud temperament of the second young miss, how could she easily forget and not hold a grudge? If it wasn't for the second elder hosting a welcoming banquet, the second young miss probably wouldn't even want to see him, much less show a pleasant expression. However, seeing Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan, the sisters similar in appearance and figure, standing side by side, made Lu Changsheng's mind wander, thinking what the eldest miss might look if she dressed alike. Or perhaps the two sisters, one in white, the other in black. Lu Changsheng dared not entertain the thought any further, immediately suppressing the wild horse of his mind. It was far too exciting, not to be pondered further. If family head Lu Yuanding knew he was entertaining thoughts about his two daughters, he might just cleave him with a sword. Second elder, he greeted as he bowed to the second elder. Changsheng, let me introduce you to the second elder. Naturally saw Lu Miaoyun's small gesture, but said nothing. He was aware of the small history between Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaohuan. It was precisely this incident that made Lu Yuanding see his daughter restless at home. Hence he allowed her to come to Nine Dragons Market to find something to do, and also to take her mind off things. Thereupon, under the introduction of the second elder, Lu Changsheng got acquainted with the two managers of the Lu family and also with the other four Lu family disciples. These individuals, capable of handling affairs in the Nine Dragons Market, held not low positions within the Lu family, belonging to the future upper echelon. Chapter 78. Meeting the second miss again. Changge takes you to read books and taste tea. Aside from Lu Miaohuan, who held a grudge and did not give Lu Changsheng a warm reception, the others were all quite enthusiastic. After all, love and hatred never come without reason. Lu Changsheng was easygoing, never offending anyone, and as a middle-grade talisman master, naturally, they were willing to be on good terms with him, especially since these few were aware of Lu Changsheng's talent for talisman making, and the Lu family had always been encouraging Lu Changsheng to fully integrate. They were naturally more inclined to foster good relations with Lu Changsheng and would not do anything to offend him. Thus, Lu Changsheng became acquainted with them. Well-fed and in high spirits, everyone left the event. A young man named Lu Miaoqing slung his arm over Lu Changsheng's shoulder and said as if they were old friends, "Changsheng, since it's your first time out and about, as your host, Brother Cheng will take you to read books and taste tea tomorrow." Read books and taste tea? Lu Changsheng was stunned. That's right, this tea house is very good, with many famous teas and all kinds of books. Just yesterday, a batch of new teas and books arrived. You won't be disappointed, Lu Miaoqing said with a meaningful look. Brother Cheng, this reading books, tasting tea, is it legitimate? Lu Changsheng asked with a strange tone in his voice, sensing something off. Lu Miaoqing glanced around and lowered his voice. Don't worry, would I take you to a reputable place? How about it? Shall we broaden our horizons tomorrow? Lu Changsheng fell silent for a moment. Indeed, he hadn't guessed wrong. This was not a proper read books. Taste tea and your brother-in-law, for crying out loud. What kind of brother-in-law would take their brother-in-law to broaden their horizons in such a way? Also, you bring this up as soon as I arrive at Nine Dragons Market and want to take me to such a place? Isn't that a bit improper? Or is that how you see me in your heart? Lu Changsheng thought to himself, then said, Brother Cheng, I'm not that kind of person. I don't go to those places. But if you don't see the world, how will you gain experience? This is also a form of cultivation, Lu Miaoqing argued. There's a saying, tea is like a beauty. It should be savored slowly, and a lady is like a book. She should be read carefully. This reading books, tasting tea, is about observing all walks of life, experiencing the various flavors of life, and is the best way to gain life experience. Don't worry, I definitely won't tell Sister Miaoyun about this, Lu Miaoqing assured. Lu Changsheng, damn it, a visit to a brothel is being made to sound so classy and pure. Lu Changsheng had not expected the Lu family to have such a talented speaker. However, he did feel that there was some truth to what was said, It was indeed a way to gain experience and see the world. When someone travels alone, they should see more of the world, right? Maybe next time, Lu Changsheng said after some contemplation. While he wanted to gain experience, the idea of doing such things just upon arriving at Nine Dragons Market gave him a sense of guilt. Moreover, he had more important things to do. He planned to stroll around the loose cultivator marketplace tomorrow. All right then, whenever you want to go, you can look for Brother Chung. I know every corner of Nine Dragons Market, Lu Miaoqing said, patting Lu Changsheng's shoulder, feeling a bit bored. He had heard of Lu Changsheng's reputation and thought he could find a kindred spirit, but to his surprise, Lu Changsheng actually refused. All right, thanks Brother Chung. Lu Changsheng nodded, then returned to his room to meditate and cultivate for 2 hours before lying down to sleep. But as he lay in bed, he found it difficult to fall asleep, feeling like something was missing. Sigh, suddenly being alone, I'm not used to it, Lu Changsheng sighed softly. Used to cuddling with his wife and concubine each night, the sudden solitude made him feel uneasy and not at peace. He then got up, took out his talisman-making tools from his storage bag, and began drawing talismans. After creating 3 middle-grade talismans, he felt a sense of mental fatigue and took a sip of white Jade 100 Flowers wine before lying back down and gradually falling asleep. The next day, Lu Changxing got up, had a simple breakfast, and went to find his sister-in-law, Lu Miaoga, to accompany him to the spiritual talisman shop. During the process, he saw Lu Miaohuan again, but she showed no warmth toward him whatsoever. Although she was chatting with her sister, Lu Miaoga, the moment she saw him come over, she immediately let out an icy snort, her face full of disdain. Huan Huan just has that temperament. She doesn't mean any harm. Don't take it to heart, Lu Miaoga said, her face showing a hint of apology. Last night, Lu Miaohuan had come to ask her why Lu Changsheng had come to Nine Dragons Market. She hadn't hidden anything and had told her sister about the fourth elder's plans to hand over the shop for Lu Changsheng to manage. After hearing about the matter, Lu Miaohuan, despite her cold and disdainful remarks about Lu Changsheng and his ability to manage the shop, was certain he would succeed. But she who knew her younger sister's personality very well understood. The more she acted like this, the more it indicated her sister was actually concerned about Lu Changsheng. If Lu Miaohuan wasn't concerned about Lu Changsheng, she wouldn't have acted this way at all. Reflecting on this made her let out a small sigh. If Lu Changsheng were just an ordinary cultivator, in time, her sister might gradually forget and not dwell on it. But the problem was, Lu Changsheng was no ordinary cultivator. Not only was he handsome, but he also had an exceptional talent in the talisman path, unparalleled and leading the rest by far. With time, he would become a first-grade, middle-grade talisman master, a first-grade, top-level talisman master, and even a second-grade talisman master. Now, Lu Changsheng had come to Nine Dragons Market and met with her sister. Under these circumstances, her sister would constantly have this matter and Lu Changsheng on her mind, which would gradually foster a delicate and dangerous sentiment. But when it came to this kind of issue, she didn't know how to advise her sister. Because Lu Miaohuan didn't like being preached to and might even react defiantly. It's fine. The second miss is straightforward. Why would I mind? Besides, it was my fault to begin with, Lu Changsheng said, shaking his head slightly. He wasn't particularly concerned about Lu Miaohuan's attitude. After all, during the matchmaking encounter, he really did regale her with a bunch of flattery and praise. When she finally agreed, he turned her down, which would understandably vex anyone, especially given Lu Miaohuan's proud and haughty nature as a young lady. Moreover, Lu Changsheng felt that he might have a bit of a bias for good looks. He tended to be more forgiving towards attractive women. As the two walked and chatted, they arrived at the spiritual talisman shop. Lu Changsheng told Lu Miaoga that if there was nothing else happening today, he would like to go out and browse around. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoga fell silent for a moment, then said, "You usually spend little time with Miaoqing. Don't follow him to unseemly places." Lu Changsheng was initially startled upon hearing this, slightly confused. Then he couldn't help but curse inwardly. Damn, how bad can Brother Cheng's reputation be? Lu Miaoqing had just slapped him on the shoulder yesterday, and exchanged a few words with him. And now, when he mentioned wanting to go out for a stroll, Lu Miaoge suspected that he was planning to go to the tea house with Lu Miaoqing. This left Lu Changsheng at a loss for words. He even had the strange impression he might be caught by his wife while visiting a courtesan's quarters. Sister Miaoge, Brother Cheng invited me to read and taste tea yesterday, but I outright refused. I just thought I'd wander around and take a look at the loose cultivators market on Southwest Street. Lu Changsheng immediately spoke up, distancing himself from any association with Lu Miaoqing. He truly hadn't anticipated that the latter's reputation could be so tarnished. Okay, I'm here to shop. You go ahead. Why not let Li Shi or Wang Wu accompany you? They are very familiar with the marketplace, Lu Miaoge advised without much ado, nodding slightly. No need. We'll just wander around by myself. Lu Changsheng waved his hand, indicating it wasn't necessary. He still vividly remembered the way Li Shi and Wang Wu looked at him the day before. So, he didn't want to interact too much and distract his employees from their work. All right, just be sure to come back before dark. Do you have a transmission talisman with you? If you get lost, you can message me. There are also many guides in the marketplace who specialize in showing people around and directing them to shops. If you want to buy something, you could hire a guide. Lu Miaoge spoke in a soft voice, as if advising Lu Changsheng like an elder would. Lu Changsheng suddenly felt as if Lu Miaoge was turning into the fourth elder before his eyes, treating him as if he were a child who hadn't experienced the world. Keep in mind, he was the father of 30 children, after all. However, he knew that Lu Miaoge was treating him like a brother or something similar. All right, don't worry, Sister Miaoge, Lu Changsheng said with a smile, waving his hand. He felt in his heart that if Lu Miaoge truly saw him as a brother, it would make it even more difficult for those feelings to change. Chapter 79, Cat Girl, Fox Lady, Snake Princess, _1 After parting with Lu Miaoge, Lu Changsheng wandered around the streets for a while before entering a deserted alley. He took out the human skin mask from his storage bag, put it on, and donned a wide, gray-brown robe. He poured some pre-prepared liquid onto his palm and smeared it over his hands and neck, making his skin appear less fair. In an instant, his handsome and dashing appearance changed into that of an ordinary-looking youth with dark skin. Still, his stature remained tall and slender. This was a basic disguise technique he had learned from Li Feiyu. It wasn't very sophisticated, but it was sufficient for his needs. Then, Lu Changsheng took out a talisman from his storage bag and used it on himself, causing his spiritual power aura to retract. A middle-grade aura concealment talisman. Its effects were the same as the aura concealment technique, but it was several times more effective than the aura concealment technique that Lu Changsheng had just started to learn. Unless it was an energy refinement late-stage cultivator using the spiritual eye technique, they wouldn't be able to perceive his cultivation level. This was also why Lu Changsheng usually didn't spend too much time and energy on cultivating spells. For one thing, it was too time-consuming and effort-intensive. On the other hand, many times, talismans could be used as a substitute. Sometimes being handsome is also a kind of trouble, he sighed, stepping out of the alley. Lu Changsheng's good looks and exceptional aura made him very memorable, which could be problematic. If he were to sell talismans and later be recognized as the owner of the Lu family spiritual talisman shop, it would be awkward to explain. So, it was better to change his appearance and conceal his aura, making him look more ordinary. Although this disguise technique was very basic and even a bit rough, and some people might recognize the disguise, as long as no one saw his true face or remembered him, it should suffice. Having left the alley, Lu Changsheng made his way to the entrance of a street. He saw several youngsters squatting there, looking around with signs that read guide. Before he could approach, one of the youngsters came up to him enthusiastically, saying, "Senior, do you need a guide? I grew up in Nine Dragons Market and am very familiar with every area. Whatever you want to know or purchase, I have all the details." The youngster spoke with enthusiasm. Although Lu Changsheng had disguised himself and concealed his aura, making him look just like an ordinary person, these youths who made their living in Nine Dragons Market as guides naturally had a certain insight. They could tell at a glance that Lu Changsheng was interested in hiring a guide. Even if he wasn't interested at most, it would just be one wasted question, no loss at all. How much do you charge for your services? Lu Changsheng nodded and asked. Senior, I only charge 1 spirit stone for a day. The youth immediately replied. A spirit stone weighs 10 liang. After the spiritual energy inside is consumed, the weight will become lighter. During the mining of spirit stones, there will also be some broken fragments known as spirit stone shards. These units of spirit stones are seldom used by cultivators. They are relatively common only in marketplaces like this one. Okay, then take me around. You have change for spirit stones, right? Lu Changsheng asked upon hearing this, and took out a spirit stone he had previously used that weighed around 4 or 5 liang. The youth showed a hint of regret in his eyes, but immediately responded enthusiastically, Yes, I do. After taking and examining the spirit stone, weighing it briefly, he then took out 2 spirit stone shards and handed them to Lu Changsheng. The youth then said, Senior, may I know what you're looking to buy or learn about? Take me to the stalls where they trade, Lu Changsheng said. The trading stalls are on Southwest Street. This way, please, Senior. It's about a half-hour's walk from here to Southwest Street. If you have anything specific you wish to purchase, you can also tell me. I know of quite a few shops where the quality of the items is guaranteed, the youngster continued. As guides, the real money was in taking cultivators to spend in shops. Is there any shop in the marketplace that sells rare treasures and exotic goods? Inquired Lu Changsheng. If Senior wishes to purchase rare treasures and exotic goods, you can go to Qingyun Commerce Guild and Myriad Treasures Pavilion. Not only are their prices reasonable and their selection vast, but the quality is also guaranteed. If Senior wants to spend a little less money, I also know quite a few shops selling rare treasures and exotic goods with guaranteed quality that I could take you to, the youngster said immediately. Even though he wanted to earn money by bringing customers to shops, he wouldn't blindly lead others astray. He couldn't afford to deceive people. After all, he was just a mortal. If he dared to deceive a cultivator and was found out, it would mean certain death. What if I want to sell some talismans? Are there any shops that will buy them? Lu Changsheng asked in an even tone. Hearing that Lu Changsheng wanted to sell talismans, the youth immediately realized that Lu Changsheng might be a talisman master. However, as a guide, he naturally wouldn't inquire further. His job was to provide information. He promptly said with respect, Senior, most of the spiritual talisman shops in Nine Dragons Market will buy talismans. Then, are there any well-reputed talisman shops in the marketplace? Continued Lu Changsheng. Actually, to be able to open a shop in the marketplace, they all have a good reputation. But if we're talking about the best reputation for talismans, naturally it's the Tianfu Pavilion of the Shun family. Their talismans not only guarantee quality, but they also often have special offers. However, they don't usually buy talismans from outsiders. Next will be the shops of families like by Lake Mountains Yu family, Qingzhou Mountains Lu family, Red Leaf Valley's Chun family, and Wugong Ridge's Zheng family. Their quality and reputation are guaranteed, the youngster said. If Senior is looking to buy talisman paper, I would recommend the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain and the Chun family of Red Leaf Valley. Their talisman paper is made with their own materials, which makes it much better than average. Chapter 80. Cat Girl? Fox Lady? Snake Princess? The youth spoke incessantly. Upon hearing Qingzhou Lu's spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changsheng nodded slightly. He knew that what the young man said was quite credible, and it was almost the same as what he had learned yesterday from Zhang Shan's account of the shop. White Jade Tower? At that moment, Lu Changsheng saw a quaint and ancient-looking pagod-like building not far away. The sign on the building bore the 3 characters White Jade Tower, reminding him that he had mentioned spending a considerable price to buy his 2 favored maids, Jiu'er and Shi, from there. Seeing Lu Changsheng's gaze toward the White Jade Tower, the youth immediately spoke. Senior, White Jade Tower specializes in matching matrimonial alliances, introducing wives and concubines and selling maids. If Senior is thinking of taking a wife or concubines or purchasing maids, you can visit White Jade Tower. White Jade Tower is also an established brand. I've heard that it's not just in Nine Dragons Market, but has branches in many marketplaces and even in Immortal City. The youth spoke, saying this. Oh, Lu Changsheng's eyebrows raised on hearing this. He couldn't help but wonder internally if the White Jade Tower, where Hong Yi had purchased Joer and Sure, and this White Jade Tower were the same establishment, just different branches? Then the business of this White Jade Tower was indeed quite extensive. The next time he received a letter from Hong Yi, he could ask if it was the same White Jade Tower. Does White Jade Tower have any wives, concubines, or maids with a spiritual root? Lu Chongqing inquired. He naturally wouldn't forget about searching for a fairy. After all matters are but passing clouds, and only taking wives, concubines, and bearing children is the true path. He was quite satisfied with Joer and Sure, whom Hong Yi had gifted him. If he could use money to buy obedient and sensible maids with spiritual root, that would be the best outcome. Of course, there are some with spiritual roots available, but they are a minority. Most are just exceptionally beautiful and have a gracious temperament, either descendants of cultivators or ordinary humans, the youth replied. I've heard that inside White Jade Tower, there are not only women from a human race, but also those from other races in the demon race, although I am not too clear about the specifics and the prices. If Senior is interested, you could go in for more information. The youth spoke again. Not only the human race, but also other races and the demon race. Lu Chongqing knew that the two girls Joer and Shuai sent by Hong Yi were from other races. Now hearing that there were also demon race girls, he instantly thought of creatures like cat girls, fox women, and snake maidens. Lu Chongqing gave a nod, not asking further, and kept the White Jade Tower in his mind. He planned to come back later to take a look and get more information. After all, the women in such a place would likely have hard lives. If he had the ability to help them, he would, saving whoever he could. It would be like saving a life, better than building a 7-tiered pagoda. Thus, Lu Chongqing chatted casually with the youth as they walked, gathering various information about the marketplace. The pair finally reached Southwest Street, where the loose cultivators set up their stalls for trading. Senior, ahead is Southwest Street, where the loose cultivators freely trade. If you wish to set up a stall, you need to pay a spirit stone for the management fee at the fee collection booth up ahead, the youth told Lu Chongqing. Lu Chongqing nodded, thinking to himself that this Nine Dragons Market really did charge for everything. Even setting up a stall required a payment of a spirit stone as a management fee. He arrived at the entrance of Southwest Street and immediately saw a street lined with lanterns, with neatly organized stalls on both sides. The throngs of people in the middle, bustling like a market in the secular world, with relentless hawking much livelier than the streets he had passed earlier. That will do. Your task is completed. There's no need to follow me anymore. I'll wander around by myself, Lu Chongqing said, waving his hand dismissively at the youth. Yes, I take my leave, and I wish Senior great luck and success, that all your wishes come true, and that fortune descends upon you, bringing prosperous and flourishing cultivation, the youth said, bowing and reciting a litany of well wishes. Lu Chongqing, unfazed by these blessings, showed no inclination of giving a tip and continued walking into the street. Seeing this, the youth wasn't disappointed. After all, wealthy patrons were few and far between, and it was rare to encounter even a few in a year. Lu Chongqing didn't rush to sell talismans. Instead, he decided to take a look around first to see if there was anything he needed or found interesting and to understand the local prices. Second-hand vestment robes for sale, practically new and without patches. Red-striped tiger meat, tender and fresh, just slaughtered last night. 10-year-old black truffles, 3 spirit stones per pound, a deal of 10 spirit stones for 3 pounds. Brother, need elixir medicines? Freshly concocted ascension elixirs here. Pop one and all worldly troubles will melt away. Each stall was actively advertising their wares. Lu Chongqing followed the flow of people, examining each stall in turn. The variety of items for sale was remarkably diverse. It was a far cry from the standards of the market at Bullhead Mountain, vastly superior in the quality of goods on offer. Most of the items were spiritual objects used by cultivators. And thinking about it made sense. After all, if one had to pay a spirit stone just to secure a stall, then selling junk wouldn't earn back even the cost of the stall fee. Lu Changsheng examined the goods in great detail, directly purchasing any materials suitable for cultivating the 100 Refinements Treasure Body technique. Because he was cultivating the 100 Refinements Treasure Body technique, he could roughly sense the quality of the spiritual materials, so he wasn't likely to be swindled. As for stumbling upon an incredible bargain, that was almost non-existent, not to mention the low odds, because to use the 100 Refinements Treasure Body technique to sense the quality of spiritual materials, he needed to touch them. Merely looking wouldn't reveal anything. He didn't have the eye for it. He hadn't even finished browsing half the street when Lu Changsheng had already spent half of his spirit stones, all used for purchasing spiritual materials for cultivating the 100 Refinements Treasure Body technique. Chapter 81. Cat Girl? Fox Lady? Snake Princess? This made him sigh with helplessness. Money really burns fast. Afterward, Lu Changsheng restrained himself a bit and focused on observing. If he really wanted to buy something, he decided to look around more and come back later to make a purchase. During this process, Lu Changsheng overheard someone haggling, chit-chatting, and debating, and he would stand aside and listen if he found it interesting. In fact, as he wandered and listened along the way, he did indeed learn a great deal and broadened his horizons considerably. Fellow Taoist, I'd like to trade this magic artifact fragment for your item. Would you like to exchange? A magic artifact fragment? May I have a look? What kind of magic artifact fragment is this? It's completely useless. I want trade. At that moment, Lu Changsheng's attention was caught by a conversation at a nearby stall, and he turned to look in that direction. He saw an elegant middle-aged man standing in front of a stall, taking back a black iron lump the size of an egg with a rough surface. Fellow Taoist, you said this is a fragment of a magic artifact. Does this fragment have any effects? A woman in blue stepped forward and politely inquired of the elegant man. Clearly, she also heard about the magic artifact fragment and wondered if she could pick up a bargain. There is no special effect. It's just very hard. I once tried hacking it with my middle-grade flying sword magic instrument, and my flying sword ended up with a notch. The elegant man said with a pained expression on his face. His words immediately sparked curiosity among the others who were paying attention. Being able to notch a flying sword magic instrument meant this was no ordinary scrap. Even if it wasn't a fragment of a magic artifact, it was still an extremely rare material. This esteemed brother, I am willing to offer 20 spirit stones for this fragment. Will you sell? Someone spoke up. Won't sell. If you want it, you have to pay at least 100 spirit stones. The elegant man waved his hand dismissively. 100 spirit stones is too expensive. Fellow Taoist, I am willing to offer 30 spirit stones. Fellow Taoist, could you use your flying sword to hack it again in front of me? If it really notches the sword, I am willing to offer 40 spirit stones. Another person proposed. However, upon hearing this, the elegant man's face darkened instantly, and he scolded, Scram! Fellow Taoist, may I take a look at this magic artifact fragment? In the meantime, Lu Changsheng also stepped forward, and with a bow he spoke. His 100 Refinements Treasure Body art required heavenly materials and treasures for cultivation. If the piece in front of him was indeed a fragment of a magic artifact, and he could integrate it into his body for cultivating the 100 Refinements Treasure Body art, then he wouldn't just offer 100 spirit stones. Even 200, 300 spirit stones, in his view, would be worthwhile. Even if it wasn't a magic artifact fragment, but some kind of heavenly material or treasure, it would still be beneficial for him. 100 spirit stones, not a single spirit stone less. The elegant man handed over the lumpy black iron piece to Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng took the piece, which was cool to the touch and somewhat heavy, weighing at least 20 or 30 pounds. This heaviness of such a small lump of iron also indicated it was out of the ordinary. Lu Changsheng slowly operated his 100 Refinements Treasure Body art. His fingertips reddened slightly as he sensed the essence of heaven and earth within the iron lump. He immediately felt that the essence contained within was far more vigorous than any of the materials he had purchased before. Even though he did not know if it was a piece of a magic artifact, Lu Changsheng was certain it was a good item and that purchasing it was unlikely to result in a loss. Fellow Taoist, I don't have enough spirit stones on me. Could I use these 2 superior grade talismans to offset some of the spirit stones? Lu Changsheng said calmly, taking out 2 superior grade talismans from his sleeve. He currently had only 140 spirit stones left on him. If I buy this shard, I won't have enough spirit stones to buy anything else. So we'll try bartering with goods, while also using up some of the talismans I have on me. As I've wandered around, I've seen quite a few exchanges of goods for goods. After all, most loose cultivators don't carry that many spirit stones on them for transactions. Flying Ascension Talisman, Golden Light Barrier Talisman. The refined man immediately recognized the 2 talismans. His eyes lit up, and he said, I want to take advantage of you. These 2 spirit talismans can offset 70 spirit stones. You just have to give me 30 more spirit stones. The refined man stated very directly. He only guessed that this iron chunk was a fragment of a magical treasure, but wasn't certain himself. It had been put up for sale several times, and he had sought appraisals, but no one was willing to pay a high price for it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked for only 100 spirit stones. Seeing that Lu Changsheng was interested, he was of course very willing to sell. All right, but I'd like to see the notch on this iron chunk that you said was chopped by flying swords. If it's true, it'll make the deal immediately. Lu Changsheng spoke. The prices for these 2 talismans were roughly 30 spirit stones each, and the other party was indeed sincere. However, although he knew the iron chunk was valuable, he couldn't let on as if he had made a huge gain, as that could raise suspicions. Sure. Upon hearing this, the refined man took out a deep blue flying sword from his storage bag. Pointing to a small notch on it, he sighed and said, You see, this notch is the one I regretfully made with a casual chop. Lu Changsheng could see that there was a notch as wide as a finger in the middle of the flying sword. He nodded immediately, handed over the 2 talismans to the man, and took out 30 spirit stones, saying, All right, in that case, he'll take the shard. Good. The fellow cultivator is decisive. The refined man accepted the talismans and spirit stones, his face showing delight as he gave a bow. Lu Changsheng also bowed slightly, tucked away the iron shard, and continued to stroll around. TSK. Someone actually spent 100 spirit stones on this so-called magical treasure shard. This iron piece, able to notch a flying sword, is indeed good material. It's just too small. If it were really worth that much, he would have taken it to the Myriad Treasures Pavilion for appraisal and sale by now. Would he have asked for just 100 spirit stones? Even if it is indeed a fragment of a magical treasure, it must be from a large magical artifact. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a complete lack of enchantments. That's correct. Such fragments of magical treasures are not so easy to melt down. This thing, those who could use it wouldn't want it, and those who would want it can't use it. Indeed, it's of no use to us energy-refining cultivators. Who knows, maybe the buyer has some other clever use for it. A few people nearby saw this scene and started discussing aloud. Lu Changsheng heard the whispers but didn't mind them. After all, someone had a point. He indeed had another extraordinary use for it, planning to use it for cultivation. I'm not even sure if this thing is a piece of a magical treasure, but if it is, and I can incorporate it into my body for cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body art, then I've really made a small fortune. As long as I complete the first layer of the 100 Refinements treasure body art, my body will be as strong as a lower-grade magical instrument, and at that time, my physical body will undergo a qualitative improvement. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. After half a year of nurturing, his physical body had already become much stronger than before. But there was still a significant distance to go before the first layer of the 100 Refinements treasure body art, refining his body to the level of a lower-grade magical instrument. There was no helping it. Body refinement techniques are time-consuming and expensive to practice. and the 100 Refinements treasure body art is far superior to ordinary body refinement techniques. He had only been practicing it for a little over half a year. Having spent over 100 spirit stones on materials before, and now another 100 on this magical treasure shard, Lu Changxing worried he might attract unwanted attention and decided to leave Southwest Street immediately. Although Nine Dragons Market was well regulated under the protection of Qingyun's sect, ensuring good security, it was still best to be cautious in all matters. Chapter 82. Young Master, are you here for pleasure? _1 Leaving Southwest Street, Lu Changxing did not head straight back. Instead, he found an inn on a nearby street and spent a spirit stone to rent a room. Once in the room, Lu Changxing took out a middle-grade purification talisman from his storage bag and used it on himself. Cultivators have a multitude of spells and techniques at their disposal, many of which can leave behind marks on others for tracking purposes. This purification talisman was capable of dispelling and cleansing such tracking marks and imprints. Seeing that the talisman had no effect on him, Lu Changxing also breathed a sigh of relief, knowing he was not being tracked. After all, last time Head left Bullhead Mountain after selling some items, he was targeted immediately upon descent. It was still wise to be cautious and careful. Lu Changxing could even feel that his 2 years of comfortable life with the Lu family had caused him to lose some of that cautiousness that he had when he first arrived, always feeling as if he were walking on thin ice. Hence, he constantly reminded himself to stay alert and be aware of potential dangers even when in a safe environment. Otherwise, there's no telling when danger might strike. After resting in the room for half an hour, Lu Changxing left with a human skin mask on. He still had the same dark, unremarkable appearance. After all, looking ordinary made it less likely for one to be remembered. Stepping out of the inn, Lu Changxing returned to Southwest Street. Having spent so many spirit stones today without any income, it was natural that he wouldn't return so quickly. He was planning to sell some items in exchange for spirit stones. He continued to stroll along the street Head previously walked. Since he had already bought many spiritual materials needed for the 100 Refinements treasure body technique, enough for some time of cultivation, he didn't buy any more. After all, it was necessary to keep some spirit stones on hand for emergencies. Then, he saw a stall selling books. He spent 2 spirit stones and bought a dragon locking secret technique and a jade room essential arts. They taught how to enhance that certain ability and how to retain yang energy and blood during moments of pleasure, reducing energy loss. These were just common bedroom arts, not any cultivation techniques or secret techniques. Otherwise, they would not be sold for such a price. In Lu Changxing's opinion, these things were just for fun. Real dual cultivation secret techniques and cultivation techniques would have to come from the system. After browsing around enough, Lu Changxing went to a stall at the corner of the street to pay a spirit stone and start his own stall. The cultivator at the payment stall gave him a wooden plaque. The plaque bore a number corresponding to a stall location where he could set up shop for 3 days. Having taken the plaque, Lu Changxing found his designated spot and sat down. He took out a stack of talismans. There were 30 lower-grade talismans and 5 middle-grade talismans in total. While he was wandering around earlier, he had also taken a look at other talisman selling stalls. He knew he couldn't put out too many, or it would attract undue attention. Then he laid out 3 items Head acquired from 3 robber cultivators on Bullhead Mountain: a flying sword, a flying dagger, and a bell. Since he had the green-faced sword and plenty of talismans by his side, he had no use for these 3 magic artifacts and naturally chose to sell them for cash. As for the 3 storage bags Head previously obtained, one he used for miscellaneous items and another for talismans, he wasn't selling them just yet, as they might come in handy later. After marking prices on all the items, Lu Changxing waited for business to pick up. However, an hour passed by. Every now and then, people glanced at his stall, but most had little interest. He only sold 5 or 6 talismans. My stall's location isn't good, it's too far back. And in a place like Nine Dragons Market, there are too many people selling talismans and magic artifacts. It's too competitive, and most rely on the reputation and customers they've built up over time. Even though my prices are a bit lower than other stalls, I still can't compete unless I lower them even more. But a slight reduction is useless. I'd have to drop the prices significantly, and that would clearly disrupt the market and attract unwanted attention. After selling for quite a while without moving many items, a hint of impatience arose in Lu Changsheng, and he stood up to pack up and leave. He planned to see if he could find any buyers for talismans and magic artifacts. A lower price would be fine. Otherwise, relying on setting up a stall, who knows when he would manage to sell everything. I have 30 lower-grade talismans and 5 middle-grade talismans. Will you buy them? No, no, no. What price are you offering? After asking 4 stalls, one of the owners spoke up. 10% off your current asking price, Lu Changsheng said. Too high, 50% off, and it'll take them all, the stall owner countered. Forget it then, I might as well sell them myself. Lu Changsheng turned to leave immediately. Damn it, there was a limit to being cutthroat. He couldn't believe the owner had the nerve to say 50% off. Brother, 60% off, the stall owner called out as Lu Changsheng walked away. 80% off, Lu Changsheng paused. How about this? Let's meet halfway at 70% off, the stall owner suggested. Lu Changsheng hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right. He took out the stack of talismans for the owner to count. He suddenly felt a twinge of guilt toward Hong Yi. He was selling talismans here at a 30% discount. Yet, he only gave a 20% discount to Hong Yi. Based on the market price, that's 80 spirit stones in total. At 70% off, that would be 56 spirit stones. The stall owner calculated the price after counting the talismans. Deal. Lu Changsheng completed the transaction and quickly left Southwest Street. He changed his appearance again and found 4 spiritual talisman shops to sell his talismans. Considering his own identity issues and not being proficient enough in changing appearances, Lu Changsheng chose not to approach the larger talisman shops. The shops he found all seemed relatively small. The buying price for talismans was around 70% off. And so, Lu Changsheng sold a total of 145 lower-grade talismans and 60 middle-grade talismans at 5 different spiritual talisman shops. Chapter 83. Young Master, are you here for pleasure? In total, I've gathered 366 spirit stones. After walking out of the last spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changsheng didn't continue selling. It's the same old saying, there's plenty of time, so it pays to be a little more cautious. With over 400 spirit stones on hand, that should suffice for quite a while. Besides, I only had a total of 5 human skin masks on me. And with this move, they're all used up. After leaving the last spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changsheng didn't bother changing his clothes and went straight to a nearby magic artifact shop to ask if they were buying artifacts. Upon hearing that they were, Lu Changsheng took out 3 magic artifacts. Although these 3 magic artifacts seem intact, they have obviously been used for a long time and have clear defects. They might break while being used. If friend wishes to sell them, our shop is willing to purchase each for 30 spirit stones. The shopkeeper of the magic artifact shop inspected the 3 magic artifacts that Lu Changsheng had and then quoted him a price. What a ripoff! Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but mutter this sentiment in his heart. He had examined the 3 magic artifacts thoroughly himself. All one could say was that the 3 robber cultivators from Bullhead Mountain had been extremely careful with their artifacts, and there were no damages. To describe them as 90% new would not be an exaggeration. Yet the initial offer was only 30 spirit stones each. Then forget it. The lowest it'll go for the 3 pieces is 120 spirit stones. Lu Changsheng shook his head, stated his bottom line, and pretended to walk away. That's too high. 120 spirit stones is too much. How about 100 stones? We'll take all 3 for 100, the shopkeeper said, seeing Lu Changsheng's actions. 1 step, 2 steps, wandering steps, seeing Lu Changsheng about to walk out the door, he added, 110, truly the lowest price. You won't find a better deal elsewhere. But as Lu Changsheng actually started to leave, the shopkeeper immediately went out and called, 115 spirit stones. Deal. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng felt it was close enough to his expectations. Tough, it was acceptable, and stopped in his tracks. He exchanged the 3 magic artifacts for 115 spirit stones. At that moment, Lu Changxing noticed a pair of azure boots in the shop that matched his magical robe quite well. Pointing at the boots, he asked, "Shopkeeper, what kind of magic boots are these? What effects do they have?" "These boots are a middle-grade magic artifact, crafted using the fur of a green-wind wolf demon beast. They come with 6 major effects: size adjustment to fit, dust avoidance, self-concealment, light body, stepping over waves, and the wind control skill," the shopkeeper promptly explained. "Middle-grade magic artifact?" Lu Changsheng gave a slight nod as he asked, "May I try them on?" "Of course you can," the shopkeeper replied with a smile. He took out the magic boots from the counter to let Lu Changsheng try them on. The boots weren't heavy, quite thin and soft, and lined with fine fur inside. Upon putting them on, Lu Changsheng's initial feeling was of utmost comfort, softness as if they were barely there, and it seemed as if his whole body had become much lighter. That was the weight-lightening effect of the boots. It was as if he had a permanent light body skill acting on him. As for stepping over waves and the wind control skill, when activated, they would allow him to move swiftly over water and greatly enhance his wind control skill, respectively. "How much for this pair of boots?" Lu Changxing inquired. He was quite satisfied with these boots, not just in terms of style and effect, but also due to their comfort. If he were to encounter trouble in the future, these boots would allow him to make a quicker escape. "This is also the first sale of the day for our shop. The original price was 210 spirit stones, but since we just did business with you, friend, it will be 200 stones for you," the shopkeeper stated. "That's too expensive. A normal middle-grade magic artifact goes for just 150 spirit stones. Would you sell for 140? Lu Changsheng went straight into bargaining. Just now, when he offered his 3 artifacts, the other party's opening bid was 30 spirit stones each. It was obvious there was a lot of room for negotiation. And besides, forget about his previous lives' purchasing experiences. Just from his most recent rounds of shopping, he knew well that bargaining was essential. If you agree too readily to what the seller says, they might even talk behind your back and consider you a sucker. That's too low. Not only is this pair of boots made from the pelt of a green wind wolf, it also contains spiritual silkworm thread. The craftsmanship, dyeing, and embroidery of the magic circles are all extremely meticulous. If friend is interested, I can go as low as 195 spirit stones." The shopkeeper recounted a litany of features and made a counteroffer. Eventually, after some haggling, Lu Changxing managed to get the boots for 160 spirit stones. After purchasing the boots, Lu Changxing took another look around the shop to see if there were any artifacts suited for his use. He felt his means were too limited and that he needed to arm himself with more methods of self-protection. He then spent 63 spirit stones and 210 spirit stones in the shop to buy a lower-grade magic artifact, 100 Changes Mask, and a middle-grade magic artifact, Chill Jade Spiritual Pendant. The 100 Changes Mask, once tailored to the face, could be freely altered to another visage, and unless it was a cultivator in the late stages of spirit refinement using the spiritual eye technique, nobody could detect anything. With this magical mask, he needn't bother buying ordinary human skin masks anymore. And the Chill Jade Spiritual Pendant, when worn, provided clear-mindedness, concealed spiritual power, masked one's aura, and shielded against divine sense probing. Moreover, in dangerous situations, it could passively generate a body-protecting shield capable of withstanding a hit from a cultivator at the middle stage of chi refinement. "Take care, friend," the shopkeeper said, smiling while he saw Lu Changxing out of the store. "Sigh, money really burns a hole in your pocket, doesn't it?" After exiting the shop, Lu Changxing sighed. Just a while ago, he thought the substantial sum he had would last a long time. But in the blink of an eye, he had almost spent all the money from selling talismans and magic artifacts, with only a little over 100 spirit stones left. He didn't have enough to buy new artifacts or materials for talismans. Isn't money meant to be spent anyway? And you can't skimp on upgrading your equipment. In about 10 days to half a month, they'll come back and sell another batch of talismans, and then they'll have money again. Chapter 84. Young Master, are you here for pleasure? Lu Changsheng let out a breath and went to another inn to open a room. He used a purification talisman to check if he was marked for tracking. Once he confirmed that he wasn't being followed, Lu Changsheng put on the human skin mask, and with a slight shift of his mental spirit, his face turned into the likeness of Li Feiyu. It's really worthy of being a magic artifact. With this, I don't need to change my appearance anymore. Lu Changsheng looked at himself in the mirror, whose features shifted continuously, and he couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. It was a pity that this mask was just a lower-grade magical instrument. The changes in appearance, once scrutinized by a cultivator at the energy refinement late stage using the spiritual eye technique, would reveal some inconsistencies. However, it didn't matter. At that time, he could just wear another human skin mask. After all, as long as his real face couldn't be recognized, it was fine. After all, with a lower-grade magical instrument, what else would one need a bicycle for? Lu Changsheng used the human skin mask to transform into an ordinary face and walked out of the inn. Then he turned left and right, returning to his own face in an alleyway. He was dressed in a Qingzhou embroidered robe with green wind boots, handsome and elegant as if a graceful pine was charming the wind. Just as Lu Changsheng was about to leave the alley, a voluptuous woman walked out of a small courtyard nearby, wearing only a thin, pink gauze garment that accentuated her curves, revealing creamy white fragrant shoulders. Upon seeing Lu Changsheng, her eyes lit up, and she couldn't help but smile coquettishly, saying softly, "Is the young master here to seek pleasure?" Lu Changsheng's face was full of question marks. Since the young master is here, why not come in and experience it for yourself? For just 5 spirit stones, this slave can give the young master the ultimate pleasure. The woman said in a tender voice, her seductive eyes like silk, reaching out her fair, jade-like hand to pull Lu Changsheng, giving him a tingling sensation as if he had been electrocuted. Particularly the bewitching, musk-like fragrance emanating from her body was highly seductive, making one's heart restless and desiring to lose one's self in the land of beautiful women. At the same time, the cold jade spiritual amulet worn on Lu Changsheng's chest produced a clear spiritual energy that suppressed the restlessness he was feeling. Bewitching technique. Lu Changsheng immediately became wary, realizing the woman in front of him was using a bewitching technique on him. He hastily stepped back, shaking his head and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm just passing by. Today, this slave is very fond of the young master. For just 2 spirit stones, I could be at the young master's." The woman continued to speak, her lovely and charming face taking on a pitiable look. It made one irresistible not to feel pity and the urge to indulge in her and ravish her. Upon hearing her words, Lu Changsheng repeatedly chanted Namo Amitabha Buddha in his heart, folded his hands, and quickly left. "Young master, at least for today, this slave won't take your spirit stones," the woman called out in a soft voice again. However, Lu Changsheng didn't turn back and quickly walked out of the alley, leaving the woman with a somewhat ugly expression on her face. She cursed resentfully, "Humph," oblivious to what's good for him, as if being handsome is such a big deal. Then she turned and went back into her courtyard. Phew! Lu Changsheng walked out of the alley and exhaled a long breath. He felt no hint of longing, only relief at the close call. I had thought myself battle-hardened, weathered through numerous trials, with a resolve as firm as steel, never to be easily swayed by the charms of a woman, yet I hadn't expected the power of a bewitching technique to be so formidable. The female cultivator just now should not have had a very high cultivation level, just middle stage to late chi refinement. Nevertheless, in such a situation, I actually felt enchanted. If it were a cultivator of great cultivation level, or one adept in bewitching techniques, it would truly be an unstoppable defense. Lu Changsheng couldn't help but inwardly remark. The woman he had just met was indeed good-looking, with a very seductive figure, but that alone wouldn't have affected him so much. Yet as she approached, Her words and actions made his heart restless and eager to plunge into desire. Strength. It's the increase of strength that is the true path. Lu Changsheng took a deep breath and silently thought to himself. If he really encountered a powerful bewitching technique or other unpreventable tactics, even with a body full of talismans and possessing talisman treasures, he might be unable to use them. I mustn't wander carelessly in these alleys in the future. One never knows when danger might strike. Lu Changsheng shook his head and walked towards the spiritual talisman shop. He planned to keep to the more crowded streets from now on. The Nine Dragons Market was known for its good public order, but that did not mean it was entirely devoid of hazards. Accidents would happen from time to time, and in these deserted alleys, there might lurk heretic cultivators or robber cultivators. On his way back to the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changsheng passed White Jade Tower and involuntarily paused. Then, eyeing the White Jade Tower before him, his gaze narrowed, and he strode in. After all, one mustn't stop taking wives, concubines, and fathering children. That was his foundation for settling down and establishing himself in this world. If one could simply buy maids or concubines with a spiritual root, it would naturally be the best option. Otherwise, if left to his own devices to find them, it would be difficult. This difficulty did not solely refer to the challenges of taking multiple wives or concubines. Lu Changxing knew that with his current circumstances, marrying a few more fairies with spiritual roots would not pose an issue. But after taking a wife or concubine, investing the time, effort, and emotion into having children with them was substantial. Even now, with his several wives and concubines, Lu Changsheng could already feel the limitations of his time and attention. He could not possibly care for each and every one equally. If these matters could be settled with money, relatively speaking, he wouldn't need to invest so much emotion and effort. The interior of the White Jade Tower was spacious and elegantly furnished, set up with simple yet refined seats, where 7 or 8 young ladies in uniform red dresses stood. Inside the hall, 2 young women in red dresses were explaining something to 2 cultivators who appear to be customers. What would the young master like to know about? Do you wish to take a wife or concubine or to purchase a maid? Let me introduce you to our services. At that moment, a woman in a red dress saw Lu Changsheng, approached with a beaming smile, and spoke. Do you have maids or concubines with a spiritual root here? Lu Changsheng asked directly. The woman in the red dress was momentarily stunned. After carefully observing Lu Changsheng's appearance and demeanor, and verifying that he was not joking, her smile grew even deeper. Knowing that Lu Changsheng was a potentially significant customer, she promptly led him to the second floor. The furnishings on the second floor differed from the main hall below, divided into many private rooms. The woman in the red dress led Lu Changsheng to a room and knocked on the door. Come in. A languorous and tantalizing voice came from within, soul-stirring and causing anyone who heard it to tremble slightly in their spirit. Chapter 85. Do you smell like another woman? _1 The lady in the red dress pushed open the door and led Lu Changsheng into the room. The room was very simple, furnished only with an ancient-looking table and chair set and a bookshelf, creating an elegant and comfortable ambience. By the window of the room, there was also a purple incense burner, with strands of incense burning inside, filling the room with a faint sandalwood fragrance. A beautiful woman in her 30s sat by the window, holding a scroll in her hand. Her black hair was lightly coiled up into a cloud bun and fixed with a golden phoenix hairpin. She wore a black phoenix bird mist gauze dress with its lapels slightly open, revealing her slender neck, delicate collarbone, and a proud expanse of snow-white bosom. On her arms were long, black gauze sleeve gloves, one hand holding a scroll and the other holding a cup of strong tea, exuding dignity and elegance, yet full of seductive charm. Beneath the gauze dress, her long, shapely legs were crossed, allowing one to catch a glimpse of plump and fair legs wrapped in black silk stockings, with one leg raised slightly. Her toes were hooked in a black phoenix bird-pattern high heel, hanging as if by a thread, highly provocative. When Lu Changsheng saw this beautiful woman, he couldn't help but take a second glance. This woman, oh so seductive. She was different from the enchanting woman he encountered in the alley just now. Not that type of charm that came from employing bewitching techniques, but rather, she exuded an alluring air from head to toe. Merely sitting there, she was incredibly tempting, stirring fires in a man's heart. One could only say, White Jade Tower truly understood men, utterly skilled in men's hearts. The beautiful lady saw Lu Changxing come in, and without any hurry, placed down her scroll. Her bright red lips lightly sipped from her teacup, leaving a mark on the porcelain edge, then smiled softly at Lu Changxing. That smile was like a whirlwind of flirtation and endless charm. Meanwhile, the lady in the red dress who had arrived with Lu Changxing quickly stepped forward and whispered a few words in the ear of the beautiful woman. After hearing the words, the beautiful lady also stood up. Her slender high heels sounded a light tap-tap-tap on the floor as she swayed up to stand, laughing lightly. This one is the White Jade Tower's manager, Feng Jinyang. May I have the honor of knowing your name, young master? Hanli. Lu Changxing had not intended to conceal his name. After all, he had come in person. But looking at this bewitching woman before him made him subconsciously give a false name. So, what is young Master Han? Please take a seat, said the beautiful woman as she ushered Lu Changxing sit down, then bent over to pour tea for him. Lu Changxing could not only smell a rich fragrance, but also caught a glimpse of Snow White between the fullness of the woman's chest. Damn vixen, Lu Changxing thought to himself. There was no need to think. He knew the woman was doing it intentionally, tempting him. Indeed, the tricks in the city were deep. He had only come to find out more about White Jade Tower, not planning to immediately buy anything or take a concubine or buy a maid. But faced with such tactics, he felt a bit embarrassed not to buy anything in the end. Young Master Han must be visiting our establishment for the first time, said the beautiful woman slowly, having finished pouring tea, smiling and speaking with a soft, tempting voice. Indeed, Han, someone truly is visiting your esteemed establishment for the first time? Lu Changxing nodded. Young Master Han visiting our White Jade Tower is a great honor for us, she said. Our creed at White Jade Tower is to ensure every customer leaves satisfied. Feng Jinyang spoke unhurriedly. I wonder where the young Master Han's requirements for taking a concubine or buying a maid. You may mention them, so this one can help select and recommend for you. After hearing this, Lu Changxing pondered a bit before replying, to have a spiritual root, to be well-behaved and sensible, and as for age, not too old. For appearance and figure, average or above is fine. His requirements for a concubine and a maid were not high, just to possess a spiritual root. For the rest, he was indifferent. Now was not the time to consider that aspect. As long as they had good conduct, were well-behaved and sensible, that was all that mattered. As for appearance and figure, just about average would do. Of course, it would be best if they were like Chu Jinjin, on their own without many entanglements. He came to White Jade Tower because he thought if he were to take a concubine, he wanted to avoid too many complications, thus resolving to avoid trouble. Is young Master Han only looking to take concubines and buy maids, not to take a wife? Feng Jinyang asked, always keeping a smile on her face and speaking with a seductive and delicate voice. Exactly, Lu Changxing nodded. Since he had come to White Jade Tower, of course, he wasn't planning to take a wife. Although he tried to treat his wives and concubines equally, the moment he stepped into White Jade Tower, his thoughts were utilitarian. He did not want to mix feelings into it. As time passed, Lu Changxing felt he was gradually adapting to this world, and his morals were becoming more flexible. In the beginning, he used to worry all day about his wives and children. But now, he had become much more indifferent. He even wondered if this counted as developing an air of arrogance. Very well, I understand young Master Han's requirements. Please wait a moment. I will return shortly. Feng Jinyang said with a light chuckle, gracefully stood up and left the room, leaving Lu Changxing by himself. A short while later, the alluring sound of tap-tap-tap from high heels approached. Accompanied by a burst of fragrant air, Feng Jinyang returned to the room, came to the table, and placed 5 jade slips on it. I just checked, And there happen to be 5 ladies who meet young Master Han's requirements. These 3 are maids, and these 2 are concubines. Young Master Han could take a look to see if there is anyone to your liking, said Feng Jinyang. With her arms wearing black gauze sleeve gloves, revealing only half of her creamy jade fingers, Feng Jinyang's hands appeared slender and enchanting. Chapter 86. Do you smell like another woman? Lu Changsheng nodded slightly, picked up a jade slip, and placed it on his forehead, sensing it with his mental spirit. He immediately saw a vivid, lifelike image of a young woman in a yellow dress. This woman was about 18 or 19 years old, with an above-average face and figure, except her eyes lacked luster, carrying a sense of numbness and lifelessness. Despite the smile on her face, it was evident that it was a forced smile. He shook his head slightly and picked up the second jade slip. It contained the image of a 20-something female in white, much like the first, with numb eyes and a forced smile. The third jade slip held the image of a woman in her late 20s. She had a beautiful face and a plump figure, exuding a sense of dignity and maturity that came with being a young married woman. Although her eyes were not as numb as the first 2, it was clear to see that she was somewhat reluctant. After viewing the jade slips of these 3 maids, Lu Changsheng furrowed his brows and picked up the 4th jade slip. Compared to the previous 3 women, this one seemed quite normal. In her 20s, with a beautiful and lovely face, dressed in a purple dress, she had a very sweet smile with 2 shallow dimples. Lu Changsheng picked up the 5th jade slip to inspect. It was an image of a cute-looking girl with a petite but exquisitely proportioned figure. To Lu Changsheng's surprise, this girl actually had a pair of fluffy fox ears on her head and a fluffy foxtail behind her, not seeming decorative, but rather inborn. Is this girl of the demon race? Or perhaps a half-demon? Lu Changsheng felt a bit of surprise upon seeing the foxtail girl in the jade slip. Having read many books, he knew that some demon beasts, upon breaking through to a certain realm, could refine their vertebrae and undergo transformation. Great demons that transformed could mate with the human race, and although it was hard for them to bear offspring, there was still a chance of producing children. Such offspring, although human in shape, would retain some traits of the demon beast. He put down the jade slip and turned to Feng Jinyang. Manager Feng, the girl in this jade slip, is she of the demon race? Correct. This girl is a half-demon with a cultivation level of 7th level energy refinement. She not only possesses a 6th grade spiritual root, but also the high-rank bloodline of the golden pupiled white fox. Feng Jinyang replied. Although this girl is willing to become a concubine, her requirements are relatively higher. She not only has preferences regarding her partner's appearance and age, but also demands 48 middle-grade spirit stones as a betrothal gift, she added. However, with Mr. Han's appearance, I'm sure any young girl would be pleased, Feng Jinyang said with a smile, her charming eyes gazing at Lu Changsheng as if looking at a lover. She has requirements regarding age and appearance, and also asks for 48 middle-grade spirit stones as a betrothal gift. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng was at a loss for words for a moment. Spirit stones are categorized as lower-grade spirit stone, middle-grade spirit stone, superior-grade spirit stone, supreme spirit stone. The spirit stones he usually used were all lower-grade spirit stones. 48 middle-grade spirit stones would be equivalent to 4,800 lower-grade spirit stones. He had just thought this beast-eared girl seemed quite nice. But upon hearing the price, he instantly backed out. And this was only the betrothal gift for taking a concubine. It didn't include future expenses and the mediation fee for the White Jade Tower. What about this one? Lu Changsheng pointed at the jade slip of another purple-dressed woman and asked. This woman has a cultivation level of 6th level energy refinement, a 7th grade spiritual root, and has no specific demands for a partner. Only 19 middle grade spirit stones are required for her betrothal gift, responded Feng Jinyang. Seeing Lu Changsheng's frown deepen, Feng Jinyang's red lips parted slightly as she spoke. Mr. Han, it is rare to find a woman with a spiritual root willing to be a servant, and they have always been in short supply. The requirements of these two women are not that high, and it's possible someone might take an interest in them in a few days. If Mr. Han finds them too expensive, you might consider these three maids, she continued. These three seem somewhat reluctant. Lu Chongqing said tactfully. Mr. Han, you can rest assured on this count. All three have come to our White Jade Tower due to various reasons, and buying them as maids from us will absolutely not result in any karmic consequences for Mr. Han. We at the White Jade Tower conduct long-term business, priding ourselves on our reputation. Any maid purchase from our White Jade Tower comes with a 3-year after-sales guarantee. If any issue or trouble arises with a maid bought from our White Jade Tower within 3 years, we will take responsibility for addressing the matter and provide a satisfactory solution to the client, Feng Jinyang said, lifting her teacup for a sip, lips curled in a seductive smile, her voice confident. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing nodded slightly. If she dared to make such a promise, it probably wasn't a significant issue. However, he still felt that such maids were not very reliable. He couldn't help but ask, doesn't the White Jade Tower have any maids with spiritual roots who have been nurtured from a young age? He was almost certain that this White Jade Tower was the same one where Hong Yi had bought Jur and Sure. He remembered Hong Yi mentioning that the two girls were orphans raised by the White Jade Tower from a young age. It seems Mr. Han is also somewhat informed about our White Jade Tower. Indeed, our White Jade Tower does rear its own young maids, but those with spiritual roots are always in high demand. They are pre-booked each year and bought up quickly. If Mr. Han wishes to purchase such maids, he would need to make a reservation in advance, Feng Jinyang said with a light laugh. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing felt somewhat disappointed. He had initially hoped to buy a few maids or pets like Jiu and Sure, who possess spiritual roots. Chapter 87. Do you smell like another woman? Now it seems that maids with spiritual roots are highly sought after and not so easy to buy, as their prices are not cheap. That seems normal enough. After all, there are more men than women in the cultivation world. Not all cultivators are indifferent to desires and dedicated solely to arduous cultivation. Moreover, it's not just loose cultivators who purchase maids with spiritual roots. Many cultivation families also buy such maids with spiritual roots for their future generations. May I know the circumstances of these three maids and their prices? Lu Chongqing sighed, pointed to the three maids listed on the jade slip on the table, and asked. It was clear that these three women had probably fallen on hard times and ended up at White Jade Tower to be sold as maids. They were indeed pitiable, unfortunate souls. If possible, one should lend a hand to save them. After all, to bear one's children, that must be better than their current situation, right? Besides, they would have no better way to repay a life-saving favor than to offer themselves and bear children as repayment. That seemed quite reasonable. This woman is at the 2nd level energy refinement, with a 9th grade spiritual root, and the price is 150 spirit stones. This woman is at the 4th level energy refinement, with a 7th grade spiritual root, and the price is 650 spirit stones. This woman is at the 6th level energy refinement, with a 6th grade spiritual root, and the price is 15 middle grade spirit stones. Feng Jinyang pointed to each of the 3 jade slips and introduced them one by one. Hearing these prices, Lu Chongqing nodded slightly. The prices seemed acceptable to him. The first woman was just 150 spirit stones, merely the price of a middle-grade magic artifact. Today, he had spent over 400 spirit stones on several artifacts. Are the prices of these three set according to their spiritual roots and cultivation levels? Lu Chongqing asked curiously. After all, the prices of the three women varied greatly, and there was a substantial difference in their spiritual roots and cultivation levels as well. Spiritual root and cultivation level, appearance, and other factors are the main reasons, Feng Jinyang said softly. Does Master Han have someone in mind? Let's go with this one. Lu Chongqing pondered for a moment, pointing to the first woman, priced at 150 spirit stones. Right now, he could only afford this maid. The main reason was that he was still uncertain about maid from White Jade Tower. He thought to start by buying a cheaper one to test the waters and see how it went. If it turned out to be satisfactory and without any issues, he would become a regular customer of White Jade Tower in the future. But if, upon arrival, he felt it wasn't right, he would take the loss of 150 spirit stones as a lesson learned. By the way, Manager Feng, there are no issues with the maid's health, right? Like, any problems with fertility? Lu Changsheng suddenly thought of something important and asked. His main purpose for buying a maid was to father children, so he naturally had to make sure of that detail. Upon hearing this, Feng Jinyang laughed coquettishly and said in an extremely charming manner, Master Han can rest assured on that account. If you decide to purchase, our White Jade Tower will provide you with all the information on the maid and ensure she undergoes a complete health examination to confirm there are no issues whatsoever. However, this woman is not currently in Nine Dragons Market. She's at another branch of our White Jade Tower. If Master Han is certain he wants her, a deposit is required first so that I can have her sent over, Feng Jinyang said as such. Fine. How much is the deposit, and how long will it take for her to be delivered? Having confirmed the purchase, Lu Changsheng didn't dawdle or hesitate. The price for this maid is 150 spirit stones, with a deposit of 30 spirit stones. As for how long it will take to deliver her, I don't have an exact time and will need to give you a response later, young Master Han. However, the time will not exceed 1 month, no matter how long it takes. Feng Jinyang said with a smile. Okay. Lu Changsheng took out 30 spirit stones. Then Feng Jinyang produced a spiritual contract and a set of information on the maid. Lu Changsheng picked them up to examine. The contents of the spiritual contract were straightforward. Lu Changsheng had paid a deposit of 30 spirit stones, and if he decided not to proceed with the purchase, the deposit would not be refunded. Moreover, White Jade Tower must deliver the person within a month, and if they were unable to do so, or if the person did not match the description provided, they would not only refund the spirit stones, but also provide double the compensation. The information were the details regarding the maid Lu Changsheng was purchasing. The woman's name was Xiao Yuyao, 19 years old, and belonged to an energy refining family. As her family had been destroyed, she had been sold to White Jade Tower. In terms of health, she was in perfect condition and still a virgin, without any issues. After reviewing the information, Lu Changsheng signed the contract. If young Master Han resides in the Nine Dragons Market, you can tell me your address, so once the person is delivered, I can have someone notify you directly, Feng Jinyang said, dividing the spiritual contract so that each had a copy and giving Lu Changsheng a seductive smile. Okay, when she arrives, you can send someone to notify me at the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop in Qingzhou. Lu Changsheng didn't hide his address. Firstly, as the reputation of White Jade Tower was quite good, he didn't need to worry about any potential issues, and it indeed made things much more convenient. Secondly, it was a way to show that he wasn't a loose cultivator and had the backing of the Qingzhou Lu family. Hearing Lu Changsheng mention the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop in Qingzhou, Feng Jinyang didn't show any change in expression. Her red lips curled into an enticing smile. All right, no problem. As soon as the maid is delivered, I will send someone to notify the young master at the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop in Qingzhou. Okay, in that case, I shall take my leave now. Lu Changsheng put away the spiritual contract and rose to bid farewell. If young Master Han visits White Jade Tower in future, simply ask for me by letting the maids know, Feng Jinyang said laughingly, her demeanor oozing allure. All right, Lu Changsheng let out a long sigh of relief after exiting the White Jade Tower. He thought the manageress of White Jade Tower was quite the enchantress, with every movement she made filled with seduction. I wonder if the White Jade Tower sells its own people. A thought suddenly flashed through Lu Changsheng's mind. With a grin and a shake of his head, he cast aside such whimsical thoughts and headed towards the spiritual talisman shop. A quarter of an hour later, upon returning to the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changsheng nodded slightly to a few employees and went straight to the third floor. Upon reaching the third floor, he saw Lu Miaoge, who was sitting by the window, deeply engrossed in reading a book, with her long, beautiful hair falling loosely over her shoulders and her white dress clinging to her body, revealing her graceful figure. Hearing some noise, she slightly turned her stunning profile towards Lu Changsheng and gave a small nod. Changsheng, you're back. Sister Miaoga. Lu Changsheng smiled and nodded. The sight of Lu Miaoga reading reminded him of Feng Junyang from the White Jade Tower. When he had entered the room, Feng Junyang was also sitting by the window reading a book, but the two had completely different reading demeanors and styles. Just as Lu Changsheng sat down, Lu Miaoga suddenly furrowed her delicate brows, gazing at him as she sniffed lightly. Chapter 88, Treasure Bone Technique. Your maid has arrived. _1 Lu Changxing noticed Lu Miaoga's subtle actions. He too sniffed gently. Immediately, he detected a faint scent of sandalwood and a woman's fragrance on himself. It was left behind in the White Jade Tower while discussing matters with Feng Junyang. Miss wouldn't think that I went to visit a brothel, right? Looking at Lu Miaoga's expressionless and detached demeanor, Lu Changsheng didn't know why, but he felt a slight pause in his heart. A feeling of guilt unexpectedly arose. But the next moment, thinking that he only went to the White Jade Tower to buy a maid, not to visit a brothel, what was there to feel guilty about? Sister Miaoga, I just passed by the White Jade Tower on my way back. Thinking of buying a maid, I went in to inquire about it, he added. By the way, is the White Jade Tower reliable? Lu Changsheng found a topic to talk about, using it as a way to explain the fragrance on his body. As for buying a maid, he had no intention of hiding it. After all, it wasn't something shameful. There was nothing to conceal. Eventually, when the maid arrived, he would bring her back and keep her by his side, so it was better to inform Lu Miaoga now. The White Jade Tower. At that, Lu Miaoga was slightly taken aback, hearing a hint of explanation in Lu Changsheng's words. She said softly, the White Jade Tower is almost everywhere in the marketplaces of Jiang country, and I haven't heard of any issues. Its reputation is quite good. I've heard that the White Jade Tower not only has a presence in Jiang country, but also has influence in many countries within the southern wilderness cultivation realm, with a nascent soul true monarch backing it. Lu Miaoga remarked, they have influence in other countries, and a nascent soul true monarch backing them? Lu Changsheng was surprised upon hearing this. As someone who loved to read, he certainly understood that this world was vast beyond measure. Jiang country was but a small part of it. His realm was called the Southern Wilderness. In the Southern Wilderness, there were well over 100 countries like Jiang country. Jiang country had only one nascent soul true monarch to guard it, ranking it as average among these countries. However, the White Jade Tower's ability to establish itself in multiple countries was certainly no small feat. Most likely, there wasn't just one nascent soul true monarch behind it. Indeed, one wouldn't dare to conduct such business without some strength. Changsheng, for us cultivators, our cultivation level is fundamental, she stated. Although your spiritual root talent is average, you have an exceptional talent in the talisman path. If you can become a second-grade talisman master, there might be hope for you to achieve foundation establishment in the future, Lu Miaoga spoke softly. Through prolonged contact, she could tell that Lu Changsheng was not the type to be merely indulged in the pleasures of women. He was very ambitious. His marrying and taking concubines was due to his poor spiritual root, knowing that the path of immortality was out of reach. Hence, through his family, he sought to continue his pursuit of immortality through his lineage. Sister Miaoga, I understand, Lu Changsheng sincerely acknowledged, knowing that Lu Miaoga meant well, and he wouldn't refute her words. After all, what Lu Miaoga said was true. In the cultivation world, only one's cultivation level and strength were fundamental. Family heritage, lineage, leaving a mark in history, none of those mattered as much as one's own cultivation and strength, one's own longevity and becoming a legend. I take wives and concubines and sire children, all for the sake to become an immortal, to pursue longevity and become a legend in history. Lu Changsheng's eyes glittered with depth and determination. Seeing the firmness in Lu Changsheng's eyes, Lu Miaoga thought he was taking her words to heart. She couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. She had a rather favorable impression of Lu Changsheng. a young man from a secular farming household, with only a ninth-grade spiritual root, rejected by the immortal sex, sought to pursue immortality by joining the Lu family as a son-in-law. Yet, he rose step by step through the talisman path, reaching this point with the status of son-in-law. To her, that achievement had outdone many others. After chatting for a while, Lu Changsheng headed to the resting room. By now, this third-floor resting room had become his own room. Inside the resting room, Lu Changsheng took out the magical treasure fragment he had purchased at the marketplace. I wonder if this thing really is a fragment of a magical treasure, he thought. If it is, then I've struck it rich. Lu Changsheng looked at the uneven black iron piece in his hand and mumbled to himself. Without further ado, he began to refine the black iron block using the sacrificial refinement technique of the 100 Refinements treasure body art. If he succeeded in the refinement, it would confirm that the block was indeed a fragment of a magical treasure and could be integrated into his body as part of the 100 Refinements treasure body technique. As Lu Changsheng's mental spirit surged with spiritual power, like an invisible flame, he started refining the black iron block before him. Under the influence of his mental spirit, the black iron block revealed a faint dark glow. As time passed, Lu Changsheng expended all of his spiritual power and exhaled deeply. Is this black iron piece actually a magical treasure fragment? However, all the inscriptions within are destroyed, possessing no special effects. It must be just a fragment of some large magical treasure. Nevertheless, it is sufficient. As long as I refine this magical treasure fragment and integrate it into my body, my 100 Refinements treasure body technique will progress rapidly. Lu Changsheng, looking at the black iron block before him, showed a weary yet surprised expression. Through the refinement he just performed, he had confirmed that the black iron block was indeed a fragment of a magical treasure, albeit a thoroughly damaged one. Inside, all enchantments and special effects were gone. It was simply a particularly hard material. However, even in this damaged state, it wasn't easy for him, a mere 4th-level energy refinement weakling, to refine it and integrate it into his body. Probably, it would take him the better part of a month to complete. Lu Changsheng took out some jade bamboo wine, drank a sip, then took out a spirit stone and held it in his hand, starting to recover his spiritual power. Chapter 89, Treasure Bone Technique. Your mate has been delivered. Just like that. After cultivating until evening, Lu Miaogan knocked on the door, and then he left the room. He left the spiritual talisman shop with Lu Miaoga and returned to the Eastern District, to the Lu family courtyard. In the following days, Lu Changsheng devoted his time to talisman making, cultivation, and refining the black iron chunk. He moved back and forth between the Lu family courtyard and the spiritual talisman shop. Whenever there was an issue in the shop that required the owner's intervention, Lu Miaoga would tell Lu Changsheng how to handle it and let him take care of it. During this period, Lu Miaoqing also came to find Lu Changsheng several times. He invited him to read or to enjoy some tea, but Lu Changsheng declined every time. One reason was that Lu Miaoga had told him to avoid associating too much with Lu Miaoqing, so he kept his distance. Another was that he felt somewhat averse to this kind of place deep down. Why not buy a few maids or take a few concubines? Isn't that nice? In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. At the Nine Dragons Marketplace, on the 3rd floor of the spiritual talisman shop, inside the resting room, Lu Changsheng looked at the black iron chunk floating before him, showing a delighted expression in his eyes. After his half-month-long refining, this magical treasure fragment was finally fully refined by him and could be condensed into his body. Condensed. Lu Changsheng spread open his chest, revealing his muscles marked with flowing lines. Then he formed a spell with his hands and pointed toward the black iron chunk. The black iron chunk slowly entered his chest, integrating bit by bit with it. The 100 Refinements treasure body art could refine the body into an unrivaled magical treasure in one go, or it could be trained gradually, part by part. Therefore, the method of refining with the aid of magical treasures could also be applied to different parts of the body. In the method of condensation, There are 7 parts in the human body where magical treasures can be condensed into. These parts are the skull, sternum, spine, and limbs, a total of 7 parts. Among them, the limbs pertain to the individual refinement of each part. The sternum, spine, and skull can affect the entire body. However, condensing into these 3 parts is much more dangerous. Especially the skull, which involves the brain, is extremely perilous, and a single misstep could result in self-injury. Luckily, having mastered the 100 Refinements treasure body art completely, Xianxia had a fair amount of confidence in condensing into his sternum. After some time, the black iron chunk fully entered Xianxia's chest and was condensed into his sternum. On his chest, one could faintly make out the uneven pattern of the black iron chunk. So ugly. Xianxia looked at the pattern on his chest, resembling a birthmark tattoo, and pursed his lips in distaste. But ugliness aside, for the sake of cultivation, it's a small price to pay. With the assistance of this magical treasure fragment, I estimate that at most half a year, with my own daily cultivation, within 3 to 4 months, I could master the 100 Refinements treasure body art. Xianxia quietly felt the effects brought about by the magical treasure fragment. Now, the 100 Refinements treasure body art, like the Immortal Beauty technique after foundation establishment with the 5 element spiritual materials, was able to cultivate automatically, nourishing the whole body. This magical treasure fragment won't support my cultivation for too long, at most only for 1 year. But 1 year is enough, perhaps by that time, they'll draw a magical treasure through the system. With a magical treasure, if I can condense it into my body for cultivation, my 100 Refinements treasure body art will truly progress at a rapid pace. Xianxia's eyes flickered as he murmured to himself. After making initial progress with the 100 Refinements treasure body art, I can also start to cultivate the Baogam method. Using the power of magical treasures to nurture the sternum, hand bones, leg bones, spinal bones, and skull, turning the human skeleton into treasure bones. Once the treasure bones are formed, they're like spirit talismans, and even in the Qi refinement realm, I could exert part of a magical treasure's power. Xianxia licked his lips in anticipation. The 100 Refinements treasure body art, being an orthodox level cultivation technique, naturally contained innumerable mysteries. It had not only cultivation methods, but also various supporting techniques like condensing magical treasures and the Baogam method. After finishing the refinement of the magical treasure fragment, Xianxia noticed it was still early, and it had been quite some time since his last visit to Southwest Street. He mentioned to Lu Miaoge that he was going out for a while. Lu Miaoge did not ask too many questions or make further comments. Once outside, just like he did before, Xianxia changed his appearance and visited 3 spirit talisman shops, selling over 100 low-grade talismans and more than 30 middle-grade talismans, earning a total of 259 spirit stones. After each trip, Xianxia would find Nin, change his appearance, and clothes again. He also made it a routine to check whether anyone was keeping tabs on him. Under the effect of the purification talisman, there was no issue with him. However, at this moment, one of the spirit stones he had just received began to emit strands of black smoke. Just for selling a few talismans and being watched? Little Talisman Hall, I've noted you. Xianxia narrowed his eyes slightly as he watched the black smoke billowing out. He hadn't expected that just selling a few dozen talismans in one shop would attract attention. It might also be because I have sold talismans at this Little Talisman Hall before, and the shopkeeper saw through me this time. Xianxia speculated in his mind. After all, his ability to disguise wasn't all that sophisticated. And in the 9 Dragons marketplace, everyone living off their wits had their own means, so it was plausible for someone to notice something odd. Looks like I'll need to lay low for a while. Xianxia slightly frowned, then took out another high-grade purification talisman. He applied it to himself and everything in his storage bag, checking over the spirit stones to ensure there were no other issues. Once he confirmed there were no problems, Xianxia breathed a sigh of relief. He He planned not to sell talismans this way for the next month or two. Otherwise, he might attract the attention of other interested parties. He wasn't just reading books for nothing. He knew that in the cultivation world, there were many unique and various techniques. Chapter 90, Treasure Bone Technique. Your maid has arrived. Even mystical beasts capable of sniffing out spirit stones, spiritual medicines, treasures, and the like exist, as well as secret techniques to do the same. Therefore, sometimes without any rhyme or reason, one might inexplicably become the target of someone else's interest. While the Nine Dragons market has good public order, one never knows if someone might take a risk, seeing someone with a low cultivation level but carrying money. After changing his appearance, Lu Changsheng switched ins twice more before reverting to his true form and returning to the spiritual talisman shop. He then took a middle-grade magic artifact pen from the spiritual talisman shop at the cost price of 139 spirit stones. He also bought 2 stacks of supreme-grade talisman paper and 2 portions of supreme-grade spirit ink, one each of fine quality and high quality. He prepared them for drawing superior-grade talismans. To this, Xianxia did not say much. After all, it is perfectly normal for the shop's owner to get items at cost price. Lu Miaoge, seeing Lu Changsheng's purchase of a middle-grade magic artifact pen, didn't ask many questions. As a talisman master, buying a better quality pen is quite the norm, isn't it? She did mention to Lu Changsheng that he didn't need supreme-grade talisman paper or spirit ink at the moment. Using supreme-grade materials to draw middle-grade talismans would be too wasteful. Lu Changsheng responded that he just bought them to try them out and see what the difference was compared to high-level papers. In his heart, however, he couldn't help but think that he might need to buy his talisman paper and spirit ink elsewhere in the future. As night fell, Lu Changsheng finished his work for the day with Lu Miaoge and returned to the Lu family's large courtyard in the Eastern District. Lu Changsheng had been wondering whether being seen together with Lu Miaoge every day might cause her admirers or secret admirers to take notice and start trouble for him. It turned out he was overthinking things. In the last half-month, although quite a few young men approached Lu Miaoge to strike up a conversation or even came to the shop to look for her, they all behaved with a certain level of decorum. Moreover, once they learned of his identity, they did not see him as a rival. They refrained from mocking and were in fact very polite. Upon returning to the courtyard, he encountered the second young lady. Faced with Lu Changsheng, she gave a cold snort and looked at him with a chilly disdain. To this, Lu Changsheng merely smiled wryly, finding the second young lad's behavior rather endearing. He thought to himself that one day, he would give her enough reasons to grumble. After a simple dinner, Lu Changsheng returned to his room. On the way, he ran into Lu Miaoqing, who was staggering and rubbing his waist. The latter clapped him on the shoulder and said, "Changsheng, you were right. We should visit those places less. We cultivators ought to focus on cultivation and tempering our characters." Lu Changsheng. If he remembered correctly, Lu Miaoqing had said the same thing to him just 3 days ago. It had only been a few days. So much for being a saint after the deed. All that resolve flies out the window as soon as the trousers are pulled up. Shaking his head slightly, upon returning to his room, Lu Changxing took out the newly purchased magic artifact pen, supreme-grade talisman paper, and supreme-grade spirit ink, and placed them on the table. He prepared to draw a few superior-grade talismans that could save his life. Lu Changsheng took out a bottle of white Jade 100 Flowers wine from his storage bag and took a hearty swig. Then, he took a deep breath, calmed his mind, picked up the magic artifact pen, and began to draw the superior-grade talisman, the Thunder-Summoning Talisman. Even with his second-rank talisman-making skill, his cultivation level required him to treat the drawing of such superior-grade talismans with due seriousness. The tip of the pen dipped lightly in the spirit ink, emitting a faint spiritual light. Then Lu Changsheng began to draw the talismans with a serious expression. The process was neither quick nor slow, each stroke smooth and fluid, possessing an artistic beauty. If the fourth elder were here, seeing Lu Changsheng's talisman-making skill, she would be agape in awe and disbelief. Even she did not have the fluidity and ease that Lu Changsheng possessed when drawing the thunder summoning talisman. After a while, Lu Changsheng finished the drawing with a flourish of his pen, and spiritual light surged from its tip, making the whole sheet of talisman paper seem to be enveloped in lightning at that moment. In an instant, the thunder light faded and vanished. A first-grade superior talisman, the thunder summoning talisman, completed. Phew! At this moment, Lu Changsheng let out a long sigh of relief and sat down, a tired expression on his face. Indeed, with a middle-grade magic artifact brush and an advanced-level talisman paper and spiritual ink, superior talismans will no longer pose a problem for me, he said. The only problem is creating one almost drains all my spiritual power. Lu Changsheng gazed at the thunder summoning talisman on the table, muttering to himself, yet his eyes were filled with excitement and joy. If the wear and tear of the talisman brush are not included, the cost of one superior talisman, with just the advanced level talisman paper and spiritual ink, is 6 spirit stones. Yet, a thunder talisman can sell for 40 to 50 spirit stones. That's a stable profit of 7 to 8 times the cost. Most importantly, having a bunch of superior talismans on hand also gave him a greater sense of personal safety. After storing the thunder summoning talisman in his storage bag, Lu Changsheng went to sleep and rest. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed by. On this day, a young manservant arrived at the spiritual talisman shop. He announced that the maid Lu Changsheng had purchased from White Jade Tower had been delivered. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng wasn't busy with anything else, so he went directly with the manservant to the White Jade Tower. Young Master Han, sorry to have kept you waiting. Lu Changsheng arrived on the 2nd floor and immediately saw Feng Jinyang, who had received him before, dressed as she had been the previous time. She wore a black phoenix bird gauze dress with high slits, revealing 2 long and slender legs in black silk, her feet in a pair of high heels with delicate black phoenix bird gold embroidery. She was allure personified. No matter, it's been just over 20 days, I'm not in a hurry, said Lu Changsheng, glancing at the voluptuous and slender legs under the sheer dress. At the root of the dress hem, one could see a hint of pale skin and lace patterns, barely visible. Before long, a woman in a red dress led a young woman in a yellow dress, about 18 or 19 years old, toward them. Lu Changsheng's gaze quickly fell on the girl in the yellow dress. The girl was 18 or 19 with fair skin, a graceful figure, and lush black hair casually tied up and draped behind her. She was dressed in a goose-yellow long gown with an open, dipping neckline, revealing a stretch of snowy white skin on an elongated neck. Though it was just a glimpse of spring, it was particularly eye-catching. But there wasn't even the slightest smile on her beautiful, delicate face, her brows slightly furrowed with sadness, and there was no sign of life in her spiritless eyes. Young Master Han, this is the maid you have purchased, Xiao Yuyao, Feng Jinyang said with a soft and seductive smile, then turned to Xiao Yuyao and commanded, Yuyao, greet young Master Han. Her voice was as tender and entrancing as before, but it carried an undeniable and unquestionable authority. Only then did the girl in yellow lower her eyes slightly and politely greeted Lu Changsheng. Yuyao greets young Master Han. When she saw Lu Changsheng, a trace of vitality appeared in her lifeless eyes. After all, with the downfall of her family and being sold to the White Jade Tower, she knew what lay ahead for her. She could either be bought to become a cauldron, harvested until death, or be bought as a tool for bearing children, continuously birthing offspring. Only a minority were bought to become maids serving others. Seeing the buyer was such a young and handsome man, she too relaxed a little, feeling moderately lucky that her fate wasn't as miserable as it could have been. After all, even if she were to become a cauldron or a childbearing tool, who wouldn't prefer someone good-looking and handsome? Young Master Han, are you satisfied? Feng Jinyang made a welcoming gesture toward Lu Changsheng and asked. According to the terms of the spiritual contract, once the maid was delivered, if the buyer found that the reality did not match the information provided, they could voice their objections. They could even choose to reject her. But in that case, depending on the situation, a certain deposit would have to be forfeited. Chapter 91. From now on, you're my half-brother from another father and mother. Understand? Miss Xiao, would you be willing to become this young master's maid? Lu Changsheng looked at Xiao Yuyao before him and asked with a smile. Although whether he asked didn't really make a difference, the woman before him had no right to refuse anyway. But it could be hypocrisy or perhaps a flexible moral bottom line, so he still posed a question. After all, he, Lu, never coerced anyone against their will. Xiao Yuyao appeared slightly taken aback. Then, looking at Lu Changsheng, she squeezed out a bit of smile and said, I am willing to serve as the young master's maid. Good, Manager Feng. I'm quite satisfied with her. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng didn't say much more and nodded towards Feng Jinyang. In his view, with her figure and the presence of a spiritual root, 150 spirit stones was not expensive at all, quite a bargain indeed. Just bearing him a few children with spiritual roots would mean he had struck gold. Immediately afterwards, Feng Jinyang waved her hand, signaling the girl in the red dress to take Xiao Yuyao out, to complete the subsequent transaction with Lu Changsheng. After Lu Changsheng had paid the remaining spirit stones, he was also given a spiritual contract. It was Xiao Yuyao's deed of servitude. But this spiritual contract was much more authoritative, able to decide Xiao Yuyao's life and death. And for the next 3 years, should any issues arise with Xiao Yuyao or she brought about any karmic troubles, Lu Changsheng could bring this spiritual contract to White Jade Tower and have them handle it. Young Master Han, please take care. If you need anything in the future, feel free to visit us often. Feng Jinyang warmly saw Lu Changsheng and Xiao Yuyao off the premises of White Jade Tower. As a manager at the White Jade Tower, she could tell from Lu Changsheng's clothing, appearance, and demeanor that he was a highly potential major client. Otherwise, for such a small transaction, she wouldn't have been so courteous. Okay, so Lu Changsheng, taking Xiao Yuyao with him, first returned to the spiritual talisman shop. It was high noon, and Zhang Shan's wife, along with their child, came to the spiritual talisman shop, delivering food in a lunchbox. Seeing a beautiful woman with a meek appearance following behind Lu Changsheng, Zhang Shan couldn't help but show a hint of envy. Upon reaching the 3rd floor, Lu Miaoga saw Xiao Yuyao and simply asked if this was the maid Lu Changsheng had purchased from White Jade Tower. Lu Changsheng nodded and briefly explained Xiao Yuyao's situation. Lu Miaoga didn't say much upon hearing this. She was even more aware than Lu Changsheng of the cruelty faced by the lower ranks within the cultivation world. Every day, countless tales unfolded of bones buried in the wilderness, families destroyed and scattered. If one were to sympathize with every such case, it would be overwhelming. In her eyes, it was fortunate for this woman to become Lu Changsheng's maid. After all, in Qingzhou Mountain, although Lu Changsheng's reputation was not very good due to taking wives and concubines and having too many children, he still had a very good reputation in dealing with his wives, concubines, and children. Night fell. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoga got off work and headed back to the Lu family's large courtyard in the Eastern District. As for Xiao Yuyao, the new maid, she followed half a step behind Lu Changsheng with her eyes demurely lowered. Li Shi and Wang Wu exchanged glances upon witnessing this scene. They could both see a touch of sorrow in each other's eyes. Although they aspired to dedicate themselves to Lu Changsheng, they understood. A man like Lu Changsheng was never short of women. The few in the Lu family's courtyard didn't make any remark about Lu Changsheng bringing home a woman. After all, it was just the purchase of a maid. Only the second daughter saw this and let out a louder snort than usual, her face showing even more disdain. Lu Changsheng smiled wryly, returned to his small courtyard, and directly instructed Xiao Yuyao. Go and prepare a bath for me. Since he had bought her to be a maid, naturally she was to be put to work. Though he had a moral bottom line, he did not have an obsession with moral cleanliness. He didn't go so far as to preach equality and treat a purchased servant with the same regard as anyone else. A maid should naturally look and act as one. As if realizing something, Xiao Yuyao's eyes trembled, and she quietly acknowledged with a yes. Then, carrying a bath bucket and bringing hot water. Her cheeks flushed as she began to undress Lu Xianxia. She also pursed her lips, undressing herself, and together with the swooshing sound of the water, entered the bath with Lu Xianxia, her delicate, soft hands washing over his body. As a cultivator clad in a magical robe, Lu Xianxia's body never really accrued any dirt, making bathing somewhat unnecessary. But taking a bath was a form of relaxation and indulgence. With the means, one should enjoy such pleasures. Otherwise, wasn't life just a relentless pursuit of immortality? After she had scrubbed Lu Xianxia's body thoroughly, the blush on Xiao Yuyo's cheeks deepened, and with shy arms loosely embracing Lu Xianxia's neck, she spoke in an embarrassed tone, "Young master." Despite the stiffness in her movements and voice, it was clear that White Jade Tower had trained her well. She was very accommodating. Right then, Lu Xianxia could no longer suppress himself. After all, it had been nearly a month since he last indulged in the pleasures of the flesh. Suddenly, inside the bathtub, the water surged tumultuously, splashing everywhere with vigorous agitation. The next day, indeed, it said that solitude yields no life, and singularity brings no growth. The harmony of yin and yang is essential. Lu Xianxia emerged from his room, feeling refreshed and invigorated. It's truly better to have someone by your pillow. Without cuddling the tender warmth of a beauty, even sleep seemed to lack something. He didn't take Xiao Yuyao with him to the spiritual talisman shop. As he stepped out of the courtyard, he ran into Lu Miaoqing. "Xianxia." Lu Miaoqing, seeing Lu Xianxia, hurriedly approached him. His somewhat haggard face showed a hint of awkwardness as he smiled and said, "Xianxia, do you have any spare spirit stones on you? Could you lend me 20? Lu Xianxia had thought that the other was looking for him to perhaps discuss books or tea again. He hadn't expected a request for spirit stones, and to start with asking for as many as 20 spirit stones. Though he was often lavish with money, 20 spirit stones was not a small sum. Chapter 92. From now on, you are my half-brother from another father and mother. After all, when it comes to lending money, one must be prepared for the possibility that the other party won't repay it. Lu Miaoqing also managed a shop, but his monthly earnings were not much. Last time at Spring Abundance Building, there was a female cultivator I particularly liked, so I've spent all my spirit stones recently, which is why I've come to borrow some from you, he said. "Xianxia, let me tell you, the women of Spring Abundance Building are not only stunning in appearance, but also can offer you the ultimate pleasure, incomparable to ordinary maids and concubines," Lu Miaoqing continued, his handsome face breaking into a smile that seemed somewhat lecherous at that moment. Lu Xianxia had also heard of this Spring Abundance Building. He knew it was a brothel in the marketplace. All the workers there were celestial maidens skilled in the art of love. So the prices were also extremely high. A single experience could cost several spirit stones, or even dozens. Lu Miaoqing had probably been frequenting the place lately. It was normal for him to have spent all his spirit stones. After all, such places were truly gold sinks. No matter how many spirit stones you had, they wouldn't last if you went there every day. "Cousin, I've almost spent all my spirit stones these days, and I've just bought a maid, so I don't have many left," Lu Xianxia said with a look of difficulty, and then took out 20 spirit stones. He was, after all, a member of a prominent family. There were frequent interactions where they would see each other. These past days, he had received many greetings from him. Although it was always invitations to read or appreciate tea, there was a certain camaraderie, so it was difficult to outright refuse. If the other party really didn't repay, then he would consider the 20 spirit stones as lost to the water. "Good brother, thank you. I will repay you once I have spirit stones, and then it'll take you to experience Spring Abundance Building properly," Lu Miaoqing said, smiling as he took the spirit stones and then turned and left. Sigh. Watching Lu Miaoqing's departing figure, Lu Xianxia shook his head. This cousin, despite being a Qi refinement 5th layer cultivator, has come to borrow spirit stones from me because of his frequent visits to the brothel that have left him haggard. Places like that, better to avoid them if possible. With that money, Wouldn't it be better to take a few concubines or buy some maids? Doesn't that sound nice? No, that's not right. Am I, Lu? Someone who lusts for pleasure and brief romantic encounters. Even if I take wives and concubines, it's for the great Tao, for long life and clear sight. Lu Changsheng mused to himself, his eyes bright with determination, and his posture a bit more erect. Shortly afterward, he strode upright, accompanied by Lu Miaoge, to work. Arriving at the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changxing proceeded, as usual, to draft a few middle-grade talismans. He had come to Nine Dragons Market to manage the shop, but the monthly tasks given by the Lu family for drawing talismans were still ongoing and needed to be completed on time. However, Lu Changsheng didn't want to give up on this task himself either. After all, not only did he earn spirit stones from it, but he also got to keep all the extra materials for himself. A lucrative deal. At noon, Lu Changsheng invited Lu Miaoge to eat at Jade Meal Hall. Though slightly expensive, the food really was delicious. Treating oneself to a meal there every so often was not bad. Yet, during the several trips Lu Miaoge and Lu Changsheng had made to Jade Meal Hall, Lu Miaoge had not let Lu Changsheng pay, suggesting they take turns covering the bill. Lu Changsheng didn't mind, and certainly wasn't about to fight to pay. Qingzhu Lu's spiritual talisman shop. Inside the talisman room. Could there be defects even in premium talisman paper? After finishing a superior grade talisman, the dungeon talisman, Lu Changsheng looked surprised. He had almost failed in creating this talisman just now. The reason was simple. There was a tiny flaw on the talisman paper that almost caused his talisman making to fail. Subsequently, Lu Changsheng checked the remaining dozen or so sheets of paper, all of which were fine. It was only the one he had just worked on that had a small defect. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng didn't pay it much mind or take it to heart. After all, finding a minor defect in a stack of talismans could still be considered acceptable. After a short rest, Lu Changxing thought that it had been almost a month since he came to Nine Dragons Market. In a few days, after inspecting the monthly inventory, he would be able to return home. I should buy some gifts to take back since I'm returning soon. He then gave Lu Miaoge a heads up and went out to buy gifts for his wives and children. That night, Lu Changxing's eyes were slightly narrowed as he lay back in the bath. After a while, Xiao Yiyo's head emerged from the water, covering her mouth, coughing softly. Lu Changsheng gestured with his hand, using the object manipulating technique to pour a cup of tea from the teapot on the side table, which landed in his hand. He handed it to the maid in front of him, speaking softly. There's really no need to swallow it. It's fine, young master. Xiao Yao took a sip of tea and spoke softly, her eyes downcast. Her clear eyes no longer had the numbness they had before. Through their interactions over these days, she had come to understand that her young master was a decent person. Especially yesterday. The woman who had always looked at her young master with disdain had given her a couple of pointers. She said that apart from being desirous of women, her master was decent regarding females. As long as she behaved well, apart from bearing children, she would not be mistreated. Spiritual Talisman Shop. Boss, here's this month's stock. Including 496 basic talismans, 851 lower-grade talismans, 388 middle-grade talismans, ordinary talisman paper. Zhang handed over a list and 5 storage bags to Lu Miaoge to inspect. Lu Miaoge nodded and then went to the 3rd floor, calling Lu Changsheng over to help check the inventory. Of course, they couldn't possibly check all these goods. Otherwise, they wouldn't know when they would finish. Chapter 93. From now on, you are my half-brother from another father and mother. Moreover, the loose cultivators who collaborated with the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop were mostly fixed, so it was enough to inspect a portion of the goods each provided. Lu Miaoge explained the inspection standards for the goods to Lu Changsheng. For instance, with talisman inspections, first and foremost, the quality of the talisman paper couldn't be too poor. Then, the sketch talisman lines should flow smoothly at first glance, without any bumps or scrapes. And finally, the spiritual power within should circulate unimpeded. Talismans could be used as soon as they were made. However, there would be a 10 to 20% difference in effectiveness due to the quality of materials, the lines, and the spiritual power. Previously, when Lu Changsheng brought his talismans to the spiritual talisman shop to sell, it was because their quality was very good, which is why the sales went so smoothly. As for the talisman paper and spiritual ink, there should not be a single flaw in quality. Having heard this, Lu Changsheng finally understood the shop's standards for goods. He couldn't help thinking about the talismans he had bought from the shop a few days earlier, only to find that one of them was flawed. Was this just his bad luck, a coincidence, or was it a lapse in quality control? Immediately, Lu Changsheng started inspecting more seriously. After all, he was going to be responsible for managing the spiritual talisman shop in a short while. If there were quality issues with the goods under his watch, or if their reputation suffered, that would be problematic. Sister Miaoga, according to the standards, would you say the spiritual power inside this talisman is flowing smoothly? Lu Changsheng, holding a middle-grade talisman in his hands, gently felt the spiritual power coursing within and voiced his inquiry. This one is just on the passing mark. Any worse, and we wouldn't accept it, Lu Miaoga said aloud. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng nodded and began to work. The work took the two of them a full 2 days to complete. Changsheng, you've worked hard. If it weren't for your help, it would have taken me 2 or 3 more days to finish the spot checks, Lu Miaoga said with a light smile on her face. It's what I should do. Lu Changsheng smiled and then took out a list and said, these people's goods have issues, so I'll return them. We want to cooperate with them in the future, right? During the 2 days of inspections, they indeed found some talismans, talisman papers, and spiritual inks that failed to meet quality standards. That's right. The main thing about running a shop in the marketplace is reputation. If there are too many issues with the goods, a bad reputation will essentially ruin the shop. That's why strict quality control in this area is a must. Lu Miaoga nodded her head with a serious tone. Okay, you'll make sure to control this aspect well. Lu Changsheng naturally understood this principle too. They say that becoming an official or getting rich means making enemies in the same trade, and rivals within the same industry harbor nothing but naked hatred for each other. With so many spiritual talisman shops in the Nine Dragons market, competition is fierce. The Lu family's spiritual talisman shop had not reached its current state easily. If any issues arose, other talisman shops would definitely pile on, and the business could plummet drastically. Uncle Zhang, I've finished inspecting goods. These few suppliers have a low rate of quality goods. Return all their items and cease future cooperation. Lu Changsheng, holding a list, said to Zhang Shan. Yes, second master. Shopkeeper Zhang Shan nodded and took the list to look. Upon seeing a name on it, he said, second master, this loose cultivator named Jia Huiran has cooperated with our shop for several years, and there has never been an issue during that time. Could there be some problem this time? Shall I ask him about it when I have a chance? Zhang Shan suggested. Has he been cooperating for several years without ever having an issue? Lu Changsheng raised his eyebrows upon hearing this. Yes, ever since the first master took over the shop, Jia Huiran has been working with us without any problems, and the quality has always been good. Zhang Shan said evenly. In that case, send his goods back to him and have him check everything himself. He'll take another look later. If there's no problem, then let's overlook it this time. Lu Changsheng eyed Zhang Shan, his gaze narrowing slightly as he spoke after a moment's thought. All right, second master. Zhang Shan immediately responded with a nod. After that, Lu Changsheng also discussed the matter with Lu Miaoga. Lu Miaoga felt the issue was not too serious, and that giving him a chance was fine. It was up to Lu Changsheng to handle it. She then mentioned that she would be returning to Qingzhou Mountain in 2 days. After returning to the Lu family's courtyard, Lu Changsheng also told Xiao Yuyao he would have to go back in a few days. Xiao Yuyao was aware that this son of hers had a pile of wives, concubines, and children at the Lu family and obediently responded. Meanwhile, in a small courtyard in the Western District, Brother Zhang, why were all the materials from this batch sent back for rework? A burly man asked Zhang Shan. Sent back for rework, and you're still asking me? This month, the shop got a new owner, so for the next few months, the shop will be monitored much more closely. Keep an eye on the quality yourself, and don't give me any of those shoddy goods passed off as first-rate again. If I hadn't spoken up this time, they would have directly terminated the partnership. Xianxia replied irritably. Terminate it then. When the time comes, we'll just change the name and continue the partnership as usual, won't we? The burly man said with an indifferent expression. Changing the name would only bring more trouble if the inspections find issues again. Moreover, I haven't quite figured out this new owner's temperament yet. Let old Zhou and old Yang keep an eye out as well. Zhang Shan continued, his face stern and beyond questioning. All right, Brother Zhang, I got it. Seeing the situation, the burly man nodded earnestly. 2 days later, early in the morning, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge rode the Iron Feather Eagle from Nine Dragons Market back to Qingzhou Mountain. Similar to their journey there, it took 2 days for the pair to safely return to the Lu family. Husband, the husband has returned. Daddy, daddy. As soon as Lu Changsheng entered, several wives, concubines, and playing children caught sight of his return and ran over to him with boundless joy, surrounding him in hugs. This is what home feels like. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but smile, patting his wives and embracing his children. Afterward, the other wives and concubines also came to meet Lu Changsheng. In the process, Lu Changsheng noticed a woman he hadn't seen before. This woman, appearing to be 17 or 18 years old, had a demeanor of refined grace and seemed somewhat shy. Later on, through Lu Miao's explanation, he learned that this woman was named Guan Xian. She was sent over by Hong Yi not long ago when he came to Qingzhou Mountain to trade talismans and possessed an 8th-grade spiritual root. At this point, Lu Miaoyan pouted slightly and coquettishly said that Lu Changsheng having them was not enough, and insisted that he had others find women for him outside. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng immediately envisioned the scene. Lu Miaoyun, pregnant, had gone to trade talismans on his behalf, and as a result, Hong Yi sent him a young girl. Under such circumstances, it was normal for Lu Miaoyun, as his principal wife, to show a bit of temper. He immediately soothed her, assuring her that he truly had no idea and was unaware of this development. After Zhou and Shu'er, he had told Hong Yi not to engage in such activities anymore. He stated that if he had been there, he would have definitely declined. He then showered her with sweet talk, praising Lu Miao's conduct as a leading wife and declaring her to be an exemplary helpmate to him. Of course, he said what he said, but in his heart, it was Hong Yi. What a good brother. In secular society, finding someone with a spiritual root was not easy, let alone a young woman in her prime years. Now that Hong Yi had found one and sent her to him, he was truly like a brother, though not by blood. Lu Changsheng also thought that he could now start selling some middle-grade talismans to Hong Yi. On the one hand, it would increase his income. On the other hand, it was a way to give Hong Yi some benefits. After all, Hong Yi had treated him so well, like a brother, so he could not fail to reciprocate. Later, Lu Changsheng chatted with Guan Xian, inquiring about her family situation and whether she came of her own will, ensuring she hadn't been coerced in any way. She conveyed that her family was an ordinary family of 5, and she had willingly sold herself to the Rui Marquis mansion to serve the celestial master. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng was relieved. A gentleman adores the fair sex, but always acts in an upright manner. His bottom line, Lu's own, was not to coerce anyone and to avoid any possible trouble. Chapter 94. All right, I was wrong, okay. _1, there's a saying that absence makes the heart grow fonder. That night, after successive intense battles, there was much tossing and turning. The passion of the process, sweet and lingering, was not for others to know. Due to this trip home, I'd only be staying for 3 days. So, during these 3 days, Lu Changsheng didn't do much cultivation or talisman making, instead spending all his time with his wives and children. In the meantime, Lu Changsheng also mentioned to Lu Miaoyan that had bought a maid while at Nine Dragons Market. There was nothing to hide about such matters. His wives would eventually find out once Xiao Yuyao became pregnant. Lu Miaoyan, knowing her husband's temperament all too well, didn't mind too much and didn't make much of it. After all, when she agreed to marry Lu Changsheng, she was already mentally prepared for this aspect. She simply showed concern, asking with full attention how Lu Changsheng's life had been at Nine Dragons Market, and whether he had been well. Warmed by his little wife's concern, Lu Changsheng expressed that aside from missing his family, everything else was fine. Later, Lu Changsheng also went to visit the fourth elder and receive guidance on talisman making. During this, the fourth elder also showed concern and inquired about his adaptation to life in Nine Dragons Market. Lu Changsheng naturally said there were no problems. Then on the way back, he stopped by the fifth elder's place and bought a batch of spiritual wine. Thus, the 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge were ready to start their journey back to Nine Dragons Market. His 25th child was about to be born in the coming days. But Lu Changsheng didn't wait at home for the birth of the child before leaving. This situation would arise again in the future, and he couldn't always be by their side. Everything has its first time. On the journey back to Nine Dragons Market, Lu Changsheng's Iron Feather Eagle was joined by a maid named Xiaoqing. Taking Xiaoqing to Nine Dragons Market was partly because Lu Miaoyan had mentioned it earlier, asking him to bring Xiaoqing over. Moreover, having babies couldn't be halted, and Xiao Yuyao alone was not enough by his side. If not for the inconvenience of the Iron Feather Eagle carrying too many people, Lu Changsheng would have also liked to bring Guan Xian to Nine Dragons Market. However, he wasn't in a hurry, as it would be the same if he brought her over the next month. Because he brought Xiaoqing, the journey took half a day longer than before. Also, as Xiaoqing wasn't protected by a magical robe, she consumed 3 of Lu Changsheng's wind-avoiding talismans while traveling through the clouds on the Iron Feather Eagle. If Lu Changsheng didn't have an abundance of talismans and didn't mind the cost, just those 3 talismans would have cost 6 spirit stones, which was a significant expense. Upon entering the city, Lu Changsheng also got a long-term identity card for Xiaoqing. He couldn't help thinking to himself that bringing people to live in the marketplace also entailed quite an expense. When he brought Xiaoqing back to the Lu family compound, Lu Changsheng encountered Lu Miaowan. The latter huffed with disdain and scorn written all over her face. This made Lu Changsheng somewhat displeased. Now and then your occasional snorts are fine, but do you have to huff with disdain every time we meet? Despite being the dream of untold numbers of fairies in the future, am still so unwelcome? Moreover, at the initial arranged meeting, although I was at fault, it was your excessive demands of not allowing a husband to take other wives or concubines that led me to refuse. If not for that, with your face, your figure, your legs, and your 6th grade spiritual root, if you were even half as good-natured as Lu Miaoyan, I feel I might have agreed. Second miss, are you sure there's nothing wrong with your health? Every time I see you, you're frowning and huffing. If something really is wrong, you should get checked out soon, or it might get worse. Lu Changsheng glanced at the second miss and said with a touch of annoyance. After speaking, he took Xiaoqing back to his own courtyard. Lu Miaohuan didn't expect that after so long. Not only did Lu Changsheng not apologize to her, but he also made sarcastic remarks, which left her feeling upset. She said coldly, "I'm in perfectly good health. I just dislike you. Is that a problem?" Her voice was still clear and beautiful. Hearing the second miss speak so frankly and righteously, Lu Changsheng was momentarily at a loss for words. Looking at Lu Miaohuan's icy, indignant, yet still exquisite face, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but respond, "Then don't look. I will look if I want to. Do you think you can stop me?" Lu Miaohuan's face puffed up with anger, her delicate chin lifted, a picture of cold and noble beauty. "I can't stop you. If you insist on making yourself miserable, then by all means, continue feeling upset," Lu Changsheng said, shaking his head as he walked away. "Lu Changsheng, you stop right there." Seeing Lu Changsheng's stance, the expression on Lu Miaohuan's delicate face inflated like a puffer fish. "You're the one who has an issue with me. Why are you telling me to stop? Do you want to make yourself suffer?" Lu Changsheng paused mid-step and looked sideways. "What kind of attitude is that?" Lu Miaohuan's face turned frosty as her chest heaved with indignation. All right, okay, I was wrong. I'm wrong, happy now? Lu Changsheng's face was full of insincerity, uttering words that could infuriate anyone. What do you mean by I was wrong? Happy now? It was clearly your fault. Is this how you apologize? Lu Miaohuan became increasingly agitated upon seeing Lu Changsheng's demeanor. An inexplicable fury surged within her, making her feel extremely annoyed. As Lu Changsheng observed her posture and temperament, he was reminded that the second miss was spoiled with a temperamental nature. Concepts such as interpersonal relations and social graces were non-existent in her. Not wanting to argue or fight with her, he turned around, bowed slightly, and earnestly said, "All right, it's my fault. I sincerely apologize to Second Mississippi. Please forgive me." Seeing Lu Changsheng's earnest apology, Lu Miaohuan's puffed cheeks deflated, her lips pursed, and with a huff, she walked away with high heels clicking, the epitome of a cold and noble beauty. Chapter 95. All right, I was wrong, okay? Lu Changsheng witnessed this scene and couldn't help being speechless. How is the second miss behaving like a child? The first miss, although appearing otherworldly, actually has a high EQ and handles interpersonal relationships very well. Lu Changsheng couldn't help shaking his head. He also felt there was no need to take the second miss so seriously, and when it was time to apologize, he might as well just do it. It would be like humoring a little girl, best to just humor her and be done with it. "Son-in-law, it seems the second miss has taken a fancy to you," said the maid Xiaoqing, giggling as she watched the two of them bicker. "Nonsense." Lu Changsheng flicked Xiaoqing's pale forehead with his finger. "It's true," the little maid said, pouting her lips while covering her forehead that had been flicked, knowing her master's temper. Lu Changsheng chuckled, feeling that the second misbehavior was indeed like that of a child trying to catch someone's attention in a certain way. He didn't pay it much mind. After all, if the second miss really took an interest in him, wanting to marry him, he would find it hard to accommodate, not having the energy to pamper her. Having settled Xiaoqing in the courtyard, Lu Changsheng suddenly thought of a problem. If the number of his wives, concubines, and maids increased, he might need to consider renting a house in the marketplace. After all, this small courtyard only had about 100 square meters, which was indeed quite small. And if there were many wives and maids, it would be inconvenient to live together in such a large courtyard. But for now, with just 3 people, Lu Changsheng wasn't in a hurry. He planned to rent a house in Nine Dragons Market once there were a few more people. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Lu Changsheng spent his days cultivating, making talismans, and go to work. Sometimes he'd go shopping with the little maid and would occasionally invite the first miss to eat out. Life was quite leisurely and comfortable. One day, Lu Miaoqing came to find Lu Changsheng again. Lu Changsheng thought he was coming to repay the money. But unexpectedly, the man was here to ask for a loan again. There's a saying, borrowing and returning makes for further borrowing not hard, but don't lend to the desperately poor. For someone like Lu Miaoqing, who hadn't repaid the first loan and was likely borrowing money to indulge in pleasures again, Lu Changsheng naturally would not lend anymore. He stated straightforwardly that he had no money. Not only did he claim to be out of money, but he also directly pleaded poverty, asking Lu Miaoqing when he would return the spirit stones. Under Lu Changsheng's acting, Lu Miaoqing could only leave disappointed. After all, to ordinary people, Lu Changsheng's income would indeed not amount to much if he had to support so many wives and children. He came to borrow money from you? Better to keep your distance from that sort of person. But you two do seem to have something in common. No wonder he came to you for a loan. Lu Miaohuan, just returning from work, passed by and saw Lu Miaoqing leaving. Guessing what had happened, she sneered. "How are we of the same ilk? I, at the very least, have 5 wives, 6 concubines, 2 favored consorts, and 3 maids. Do I need to go to such places?" Lu Changsheng, seeing Lu Miaohuan's expression, snorted in disdain and walked away. Lu Miaohuan, hearing Lu Changsheng's words and watching his retreating figure, didn't know why, but felt her anger rising incessantly, very annoyed. That night after, Xiao Yuyao and Xiaoqing leaned languidly in Lu Changsheng's embrace. "My lord, I think I might be pregnant," Xiao Yuyao said in a soft voice. "Pregnant?" Lu Changsheng's spirits lifted upon hearing this. There's a saying that a lone yin does not produce life, nor does a lone yang endure, and these days he had been harmonizing yin and yang with Xiao Yuyao nightly. Now, after such a long time, her being pregnant was natural. Instantly, he pressed his head to Xiao Yuyao's belly. He could faintly feel a weak life force gestating. "Good, good, good," Lu Changsheng repeatedly cheered, his face full of delight, and asked, "When did you realize it?" Xiao Yuyao was also a cultivator with a qi refinement level of the second level, so it was natural for her to be aware of her own pregnancy. "It was just a couple of days ago, but at that time I wasn't sure yet. I only confirmed it today," Xiao Yuyao said gently. She knew that her lord particularly adored children. "Good. From now on, take good care of yourself and pay attention to your health. If you need anything for eating or drinking, just let me know," Lu Changsheng said. Now that she was carrying a child, becoming the mother of his child, her status in his heart would naturally rise. Xiaoqing, seeing this, her watery eyes filled with coquettishness, looked at Lu Changsheng and said in a tender voice, "My lord, I want to bear your child too." "Good, good, good, bear one." Lu Changsheng drew Xiaoqing close and agreed. In 2 months' time, Lu Miao's child was due. For Xiaoqing to be pregnant now would be about the right time. He then rolled over and set about striving for the great Tao of immortality. The next day, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge went to work. Thinking of Xiao Yuyao's pregnancy, he now only had Xiaoqing left by his side. Previously, he had been concerned about Lu Miao's pregnancy, which is why he hadn't allowed Xiaoqing to get pregnant. Now, without such concerns, he reckoned that under daily yin and yang harmonization, it shouldn't take long for Xiaoqing to conceive as well. Should we perhaps buy some more maids from White Jade Tower? Now that Yu Yao is pregnant, she needs someone to take care of her. If Xiaoqing gets pregnant, she'll need someone too, Lu Changxing mused inwardly. He hadn't really thought that the maids he bought must possess a spiritual root. Indeed, his intent was to practice eugenics, but it was also to do so as much as practicable under the circumstances. Currently, he clearly did not have the conditions for that. However, the first order of business is to earn some spirit stones. Lu Changsheng shook his head slightly. The spirit stones he had previously earned, spent on magic artifacts, talisman brushes, talisman paper, and spirit ink, together with the expenses incurred in recent times, had almost depleted his reserves. Chapter 96. All right, I was wrong, okay? So, even if he were to buy ordinary maids without a spiritual root, the money he had would hardly suffice. Because if one were to buy maids, naturally one could not just buy one or two. If buying, one should buy many at once. And with the increase of maids, the matter of renting a house also had to be put on the agenda. Alas, wealth and companions are needed in the practice of the law. Wealth and companions are needed in the practice of the law. Indeed, no matter where you are, you need to have money. If it wasn't for my talisman-making skills, these years, having stored so many talismans on me, the very thought of cultivation would be extremely difficult. Lu Changsheng shook his head and sighed, deeply sensing the difficulty of cultivation. If it was already like this for himself, how much harder it must be for other ordinary cultivators, he thought. After giving Lu Miaoge a quick heads-up, Lu Changsheng left the house and, after disguising himself, went around to several spiritual talisman shops and sold almost 200 talismans. This time selling talismans, he was even more cautious and did not go to the shops where he had sold talismans before to avoid being noticed by someone with ulterior motives. Sigh, this is ultimately not a long-term solution. A few more times, I would have visited every spiritual talisman shop in the Nine Dragons Market, and I might end up drawing the attention of someone with ulterior motives. In the end, Lu Changsheng checked himself with a purification talisman, making sure he wasn't being watched, and let out a sigh of relief. The Lu family's spiritual talisman shop purchases talismans outside every month. In a few more months, the young lady won't be at the spiritual talisman shop every day, and by then, I will be fully in charge of the shop. At that time, depending on the situation, I can sell the talismans I have through the channel of the Liu family's spiritual talisman shop without having to run around like this, worried about being watched. Liu Changsheng's eyes flickered. He had thought before about whether he could sell his own spirit talismans through the Liu family's spiritual talisman shop. And this month's observations made him feel it was increasingly feasible. All he needed to do was to forge a supplier, as long as the goods provided were fine. Once the shop was under his full responsibility, such a thing would be easier than ever. That night, Liu Changsheng also asked Xiaoqing to find out about the housing prices and rental situation in the Nine Dragons market and planned to rent a 400 to 500 square meter house. For the location of the house, he told Xiaoqing to look in the eastern and northern districts and not to go to the western district. The western district was the gathering place for Liu's cultivators. Not only was it far, but was also a mixture of good and bad, and there might be unexpected dangers. So it wouldn't matter even if it cost a bit more money. Even though the northern district was a commercial and entertainment district belonging to the bustling city, there were still many houses for rent. It's just that the cost-effectiveness wasn't very high, considering the northern district was mainly to be as close as possible to the spiritual talisman shop for convenience. This would not only save him the daily commute time, but also make explanations to the Liu family simpler. 2 days later, Xiaoqing showed Liu Changsheng several houses to pick from. Looking at the conditions and prices of these houses, Liu Changsheng also gained an understanding of the housing prices in the Nine Dragons market. In the Eastern District, a house of 400 to 500 square meters, depending on different lease terms, location, and environment, the price would be roughly between 60 and 100 spirit stones. The houses in the Northern District, however, were much cheaper. The rent for a year was around 30 to 80 spirit stones. After looking at the houses Xiaoqing had picked out, Liu Changsheng immediately made a decision. He chose a house in the Northern District, not far from the spiritual talisman shop. The walk was almost 15 minutes. The house was about 400 square meters, and the minimum lease term was 5 years. The annual rent was 50 spirit stones, which could be paid yearly, and 1 year's rent would be required as a deposit. After deciding to rent the house, Liu Changsheng mentioned the matter to Liu Miaoge that same night and also informed the second elder. After all, it wouldn't seem right to just rent a house and move out without saying a word when he was living comfortably in the area. And he had a ready-made reason. He was planning to have some of his wives and concubines come stay in a marketplace for a while, which would be somewhat cramped at his current place and not very convenient. Moreover, he didn't want to walk back and forth every day, so he decided to rent a house near the spiritual talisman shop, which would make things much more convenient on a daily basis. When the second elder heard this, he initially suggested giving Liu Changsheng a larger courtyard. But upon Liu Changsheng's insistence, he didn't say much else. He only asked briefly whether Liu Changsheng had rented yet, and if he had found a suitable house, offering to have someone help take a look. Liu Changsheng stated that he hadn't rented yet, but had seen some and had a few in mind, and he showed his choices to the second elder. After looking them over, the latter saw no issues, but merely advised Liu Changsheng to come and visit more often. The very next day, Liu Changsheng went to the housing store management center established by Qinyan sect, paid 100 spirit stones, and signed a rental spiritual contract. During the lease period, he had the right to enter and reside in the marketplace without the need to pay the city entrance fee or process an identity card. Moreover, according to the size of the house, he also obtained 3 additional free residency spots. Having such a large house, but only 3 free residency spots made Liu Changsheng shake his head in disdain at their stinginess. What he found even more ridiculous was that the long-term identity cards that he had processed for himself and Xiaoqing were non-refundable, and he couldn't get any spirit stones back. After completing the house rental, Liu Changsheng once again visited the White Jade Tower to purchase maids. What surprised him was that even the ordinary maids at White Jade Tower were so expensive. Even those without a spiritual root cost several spirit stones each, and the more expensive ones could cost dozens or even hundreds. With Feng Juniang's explanation, he understood why even ordinary maids were so costly. One reason was the brand reputation of White Jade Tower. It guaranteed absolute assurance in the maid's appearance, figure, and loyalty. Additionally, these maids were trained and educated by White Jade Tower, not only proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, painting, and the pleasures of the boudoir. They were also skilled in martial arts, and even the cultivation techniques they practiced could enhance and solidify one's foundation. For maids without a spiritual root, there were more options available. Essentially, as long as one had the money, White Jade Tower could provide whatever looks, figure, and personality one desired. In the selection, Lu Changsheng also saw exotic female figures like Jiuer and Shui'er, as well as maidens of the demon race. However, most of these demon race women partially possessed demon bloodlines, which were activated by White Jade Tower through certain methods, giving rise to demonic features. Such maids were only suitable as cherished concubines and generally lacked the ability to bear children, which Lu Changsheng found regrettable. In the end, Lu Changsheng spent 116 spirit stones to purchase 9 maids with unique features. 2 of them were already in the White Jade Tower, while the rest would be sent over later. Immediately, Lu Changsheng settled the 2 maids in his newly rented house, and that very day he packed light, moving in with Xiao Yuyao and Xiao Qing. Chapter 97. Lu Changsheng, a full-time artisan. _1 After moving, Lu Changsheng cast a spell to do a simple sweep of the house and the yard. This house only has a basic soundproofing formation. It seems he'll need to buy a few small formations later. Lu Changsheng observed the situation in the yard and thought to himself, even though Nine Dragons Market had good public order, it still couldn't compare to living in Qingzhou Valley's Lu family compound in the Eastern District. He still needed to be cautious and have some security measures. Otherwise, what would happen if he was not at home and his wives encountered danger while at home? Moreover, these small formations could be taken along and reused after purchasing when moving houses in the future. The next day, before going to work, Lu Changsheng gave Xiao Qing 20 spirit stones. He asked her to buy some spirit rice, spirit vegetables, and spiritual materials to store at home. Now that he had Xiao Qing, a spirit cooking chef, he could enjoy better quality food. He also asked Xiao Qing to prepare lunch for 2 and deliver it to the spiritual talisman shop around noon. On his way to the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changsheng saw an array shop and went in to inquire about the prices of small formations, formation implements, and array plates. As for the formation implements, there are formation flags, array plates, and formation eyes as part of the set, and the specific cost depends on the area you want to cover. The shopkeeper of the formation shop began to introduce. Subsequently, Lu Changsheng asked how much the formation implements would cost for a yard of around 400 or 500 square meters. There are many types of formations. For this size, the most common first-grade lower-quality formation, the minor misleading array, costs 180 spirit stones. As for some stronger formations, it's not enough to just have the formation implements. You also need an array master to set it up and inscribe the array patterns. The shopkeeper, recognizing Lu Changsheng, spoke more, sharing knowledge about formations with him. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng involuntarily clicked his tongue in wonder. Just to cover 400 square meters with a first-grade, ordinary lower-quality formation implement would cost 180 spirit stones. The price for a complete set of first-grade, middle-quality formation implements was around 400 or 500 spirit stones. As for a complete set of first-grade, high-quality formation implements, the price was basically 1,000 or more spirit stones. And for complex formations, the cost was even higher because it included the fee for the array master services. Truly, compared to array masters, alchemists, and artifact refiners, talisman masters are still a bit lacking. I also wonder if I will be able to draw formation skills in the future. If I could become an array master, then once I am settled down, I won't have to worry about someone breaking into my home. After chatting with the shopkeeper for a while, Lu Changsheng shook his head and left. He didn't have the money now, and even the first-grade lower-quality formation implements were beyond his reach. Moreover, in his opinion, the first-grade lower-quality formation implements were actually somewhat mediocre in effect. At noon, Xiaoqing came to deliver food, carrying a lunchbox. When Lu Miaoga found out there was also a portion for her, a smile appeared on her face. Lu Changsheng had Xiaoqing prepare 2 portions, naturally including one for the young miss. After spending some time together, Lu Changxing knew that Miaoga also had a bit of a foodie trait and liked to eat often. Unfortunately, he himself had no culinary skills. He couldn't rely on cooking some dishes to conquer her stomach and then her heart with a roasted chicken. Unless one day he won culinary skills in a draw. After finishing the meal, Lu Miaoga also offered to give spirit stones to Lu Changsheng as food expenses. Lu Changsheng naturally refused to accept this, but unable to persuade Lu Miaoga otherwise, he eventually agreed to accept 12 spirit stones as a token per month. Night fell. When Lu Changsheng got off work and returned home that day, Xiaoqing told him that in the afternoon a neighboring household had come to visit. They had also brought 3 talismans, saying that they were now neighbors and hoped to look out for each other more in the future. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng was a bit surprised. He hadn't expected the neighbor to be so enthusiastic. He took the talismans from Xiaoqing's hand to have a look, and all 3 were of lower-grade quality. The neighbor gave talismans as a gift. Could it be that this neighbor is a talisman master? Lu Changsheng thought to himself, thinking that close neighbors are better than distant relatives and that one relies on friends when away from home. He would also be living here for quite some time. Since the neighbor took the initiative to visit, they seemed to be approachable, and it would be good to get acquainted. Moreover, maintaining a good relationship with the surrounding neighbors wouldn't be a bad thing. At the very least, he would know what kind of people his neighbors were. Without further ado, Lu Changsheng also prepared a basket of fruit and took out 2 gift boxes containing several talismans to return the visit. Knock, knock, knock. Lu Changsheng went to knock on the door of the small courtyard to the right. Soon, the door creaked open. "Who are you looking for, uncle?" The door was opened by a little girl around 11 or 12 years old with chubby cheeks, 2 buns tied with ribbons on her head, and wearing a pale blue ruchuan. The little girl was incredibly cute, with long eyelashes fluttering and her clear, distinct eyes looking up at Lu Changsheng as she asked in a crisp voice, "I'm a neighbor who just moved in next door. I've come to visit. Is your family elder at home?" Lu Changsheng asked with a smile, tugging at the corner of his mouth. The neighbor from next door? Upon hearing this, the little girl tilted her head and then called into the house with a bright voice, "Dad, it's the uncle who moved in next door." Then, a man in his 30s with a friendly face and a somewhat plump figure walked out from inside. "I've just moved in next door, and having heard that a friend came to visit earlier today, I too wanted to come over and get acquainted," Lu Changsheng said politely as he handed over the basket of fruit. "Oh, it's you, Lu Daoist. I'm Gao He. Please come in, come in," the middle-aged man said with a warm smile, gesturing invitingly in a way that exuded an aura of affability and prosperity. This courtyard was subdivided, covering only about 100 square meters, and was not as large as Lu Changsheng's own yard. Chapter 98. I, Lu Changsheng, a full-time artisan. However, Lu Changsheng did glance over and saw that the household consisted only of Gao He and his daughter, as well as 2 servants, which seemed enough for such a large residence. While chatting, Lu Changsheng learned that the other party was a middle-grade talisman master who sat in residence at a spiritual talisman shop. Once Gao, he learned that Lu Changsheng was the owner of the Qing Zhu Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. He became noticeably more enthusiastic. He expressed that they could have business dealings in the future. Subsequently, the 2 also exchanged insights on the art of talisman making. Through the conversation, Lu Changsheng roughly concluded that Gao He was at the intermediate level among middle-grade talisman masters, still some distance away from becoming a superior one. After leaving Gao He's home, Lu Changsheng also took the opportunity to visit the residence across the street. The person who opened the door was an elderly man, a senior servant of the household. Upon hearing Lu Changsheng's intention, he indicated that his master was not in and would only return after the hour of Su each day. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng apologized for the disturbance and said he would visit again another time. Then, he knocked on the door on the left to pay a visit there. "Who might you be?" The door was opened by a softly featured lady in her 30s, plump yet graceful in figure. Her skin was as white as snow, her eyebrows like emerald feathers, her nose like a distant mountain, and her lips were as rosy as blossoms, with her jet black hair coiled up into a bun. She was draped in a light blue dress, with a slim waist tightly cinched by a belt, revealing a proud and curvaceous body. A gentle smile graced her lips, emanating a mature charm unique to a beautiful matron. "My name is Lu Changsheng. I've just moved in next door, so I've taken the liberty to come and introduce myself." Lu Changsheng, with a genial face and a smile, bowed slightly with his hands clasped and presented a gift box containing talismans. Inside were 3 low-grade talismans and 1 middle-grade talisman. After all, a small gift for a new acquaintance need not be too valuable. "So it's Taoist, Lu. Please come in." Upon hearing this, the matron invited Lu Changsheng into the courtyard, served tea and water, and called out her husband to greet him. Her husband was a man in his 40s, tall and brawny. This man was entirely different from the genial Gao He, being somewhat taciturn. In his presence, Lu Changsheng even sensed a somewhat fierce aura, feeling that this person was not easy to approach. After a brief conversation, Lu Changsheng took his leave, mentioning he would be available for future talisman purchases. The man introduced himself as Zhao, who made his living by hunting demon beasts. He told Lu Changsheng that if he ever wished to buy demon beast meat, he could come to him. After paying his visits to the 3 neighboring families to the left and right, Lu Changsheng returned to his own residence. After a bath, he called upon Xiaoqing and 2 maids, determined to strive for immortality. The next day, just as Lu Changsheng was preparing to leave, he heard a knock at the door. Upon opening, he saw a man with a tall stature and a refined appearance of middle age. It was his neighbor from across the way, who, having heard of Lu Changsheng's visit yesterday and noticing some activity this morning, took the opportunity to return the visit while at home. The neighbor knew him and was aware that he was the new owner of the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. Through his self-introduction, Lu Changsheng realized that this was the owner of the Jade Meal Hall, whom he had noted several times before. Probably a born businessman, the owner of the Jade Meal Hall was also very amicable. He suggested they should interact more in the future, offering discounts whenever Lu Changsheng dined at the Jade Meal Hall. Lu Changsheng, too, was the type of person who responded amiably when others spoke kindly to him. After exchanging pleasantries with the man, he finally set off. He thought to himself that among the 3 neighboring families, aside from a somewhat fierce family on the left, the others seemed rather nice. Time flew, and before he knew it, the end of the month was almost upon him. Zhang Shan brought the inventory and list of goods purchased during the month for Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge to spot check. It took 2 days for the 2 of them to finish inspecting the goods. As before, they found some defective and flawed items, but not too many. This prompted Lu Changsheng to inquire if Lu Miaoge's suppliers for the shop weren't long-term partners, why there were always some defective and flawed items in every shipment. Faced with this question, Lu Miaoge merely said that although they were long-term collaborators, only some were fixed and long-term. There were sometimes changes necessitating the search for new suppliers. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng nodded in understanding. He recognized that the Lu family supply chain was not entirely stable. Thus, quality issues like this were simply unavoidable. Thinking ahead to 2 months from now, when Lu Miaoge would no longer be around to help, Lu Changsheng felt a headache coming on. After all, inspecting goods was truly a tedious and grueling task. Once they had completed their checks and handed the confirmed list to Zhang Shan, Lu Changsheng also agreed with Lu Miaoge to return to Qingzhou Mountain in 2 days' time. 2 days later, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge rode the Iron Feather Eagle back to Qingzhou Mountain. Xiaoqing naturally stayed in Nine Dragons Market, as she could not be expected to follow him around. When he was to return to Nine Dragons Market, he would bring Guan Xin with him too, and with more people, it would be inconvenient. The 2 had a smooth journey back to Qingzhou Mountain. Upon returning home, Lu Changsheng learned that his 25th child had been born. And on the third day after his return, his 26th child was also born. No unexpected surprises occurred. Both children were born without a spiritual root. Lu Changsheng took this fact in stride. There was still a month's time before Lu Miaoyun was due to give birth. Lu Changsheng had some expectations and paid special attention to the child in Lu Miaoyun's womb. He even thought to himself that perhaps he should stay in Qingzhou Mountain this month to wait for Lu Miaoyun to give birth and see the child before leaving. However, considering that a month after Lu Miaoyun's delivery, it would be time for Chu Zhenqian's child to be born. He couldn't very well wait for one and not the other. Chapter 99. Lu Changsheng, a full-time artisan. This matter is not about scarcity, but about uneven distribution. If everyone waits, I feel like there's no need for me to go out at all. In the end, Lu Changsheng decided to spend the next few days in close companionship. Then, estimating the time, he planned to come home early and stay a few extra days. It could also be considered a special privilege for his wife. During these 3 days at home, Lu Changsheng still spent time with his wives and daughters, hardly cultivating or making talismans. This time, go to listen to the fourth elder's talisman instruction. The fourth elder also handed over the talismans for the monthly shop, restocking directly to Lu Changsheng. The number of talismans wasn't large, consisting of 3 supreme talismans, 30 superior grade talismans, and 30 middle grade talismans. This made Lu Changsheng secretly wonder if the fourth elder drew only 1 superior grade and 1 middle grade talisman each day. However, he also remembered that the Lu family had several shops in other marketplaces, and the fourth elder probably needed to supply a portion of the talismans there as well. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed, and Lu Changsheng took Lu Miaoge back to Nine Dragons Market. Seeing Lu Changsheng return with Guan Xian, Lu Miaoge sighed softly. After all, just last month, she had told Lu Changsheng that cultivation level and strength are fundamental. Lu Changsheng at that time also firmly agreed. But it hadn't been long since then, and not only did he buy a maid at Nine Dragons Market, but he also brought another maid from home. Nevertheless, she wasn't one to talk too much. Once she had said something, it was enough, and she wouldn't bring it up a second time. After returning to Nine Dragons Market, Lu Changsheng used the housing deed to issue Guan Xian a free residency card and settled her in comfortably. He instructed her to communicate with Xiaoqing about anything she needed. Now in this place, Xiaoqing was mainly in charge. In the time that followed, Lu Changsheng resumed his comfortable life of daily cultivation, talisman making, childbearing, and going to and from work. During this period, Gao He came over to chat and exchange insights on the talisman path with Lu Changsheng. For someone as amiable as Gao He, Lu Changsheng was naturally polite, chatting over tea for half an hour and enriching Gao He's understanding considerably. 10 days later, Lu Changsheng learned that Xiaoqing was pregnant. He was extremely joyful at this news. After all, Xiaoqing possessed a 9th grade spiritual root, which greatly increased the chances of having a child with a spiritual root. But then, a faint worry emerged in his heart. Whenever there was something to be done, he had always relied on Xiaoqing. Now that Xiaoqing was pregnant, it wasn't good to have her bustling about anymore. Thinking that anybody capable of working by his side would soon be pregnant and unable to work, he realized that he would never have someone stable by his side to handle tasks. I need to find someone specifically to do the work, to be the steward of this courtyard, Lu Changsheng thought to himself. His mind suddenly turned to the beast-eared girls of White Jade Tower. These beast-eared girls were cultivated by White Jade Tower through special methods and secret techniques, rendering them barren. Purchasing one as a steward seemed like a good idea. However, these beast-eared girls were quite expensive. They typically cost several tens of spirit stones, easily exceeding 100 spirit stones. A suitable one for his liking would no doubt cost over 100 spirit stones. To spend over 100 spirit stones on a beast-eared girl seemed too wasteful to Lu Changsheng, especially since he was in urgent need of spirit stones at the moment. No, that's not right. I'm not a stud horse, nor is it that women in my yard must become pregnant. If I arrange for 2 maids specifically to do the work and ensure they don't become pregnant, That should do. Lu Changsheng came back to his senses, somewhat speechless at his previous thoughts, feeling that he had fallen into a mental trap thinking about childbearing day after day. As a cultivator, he might not be able to guarantee that a woman would become pregnant, but ensuring that a woman doesn't become pregnant was still within his capabilities. Remembering that he still had 7 maids at White Jade Tower yet to be sent to him, he anticipated they would arrive soon. Lu Changsheng decided to pick 2 of them to be in charge of household affairs when they arrived. The next day, Gao He came over again to chat and exchange insights on the talisman path with Lu Changsheng. This made Lu Changsheng shake his head in amusement. In his opinion, as neighbors, this sort of thing should just be an occasional conversation. If they really want to talk, there wasn't much to talk about in this area, mainly because the 2 were not on the same level. Discussing the talisman path with Gao, he was like a professor discussing elementary school homework with a grade school student. However, he also knew that it was his own insightful performances during their past conversations that had led to Gao He's improvements in the talisman path, which is why he kept coming back. This time, Lu Changsheng was careful to appear comparatively more ordinary. One reason was to discourage Gao He from constantly coming to him to talk about the talisman path, and another was that he couldn't show off too much since he was outwardly just a middle-grade talisman master. In the course of their chat, Lu Changsheng also inquired about the business model and daily operations of Gao He's spiritual talisman shop to see if there was anything he could learn for himself. Gao He didn't conceal anything and share the truth. The spiritual talisman shop he presided over was quite similar in business model to the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, only lacking in supply, quality control, and variety of talismans compared to the Lu family shop. Lu Changsheng nodded slightly, gaining a basic understanding. In fact, whether it's a spirit talisman shop, an elixir medicine shop, a magic artifact shop, or a formation shop, etc., as long as you have the strength, your business won't do poorly. It can certainly thrive. For the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, in addition to the renown of Qing Zhu and the Lu family, the core competitive power lies in the 4th Elder's 3 supreme talismans and 30 superior grade talismans. As long as I keep up the prize draws, maybe I can become a full-time craftsman. By then, I can train my children in this direction or cultivate more craftsmen, ensuring not only a stable income for the family, but also sparing my children from having to fight to the death outside to earn resources. Chapter 100. I, Lu Changsheng, a full-time artisan. _4. After all, what I seek is stability, and having everything stable outweighs everything else. Lu Changsheng thought again about his future path. 3 days later, a servant from White Jade Tower came over, indicating that the maids Lu Changsheng had purchased had been delivered. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng and the servant went to White Jade Tower. He was greeted by the same charming and seductive Feng Junyang, as always. Every time he saw Feng Junyang, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but sigh in admiration. What a stunning beauty! Master Lu, are you satisfied? Feng Junyang led the 7 maids over and asked Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng didn't continue using the name Han Li. He revealed his real name. After all, he just impulsively borrowed a false name at the time. And he knew that the manager of White Jade Tower obviously knew his true identity. There was no point in hiding it anymore. Otherwise, it felt weird every time he was addressed as Master Han, and he would have to explain it to the maids he bought afterwards. No problem. Lu Changsheng looked at the 7 utterly charming and distinct maids before him and nodded. These 7 maids were not only beautiful and well-formed. Some of them were skilled in martial arts and had practiced charming lady elemental cultivation. Otherwise, for mere ordinary maids, he wouldn't have spent 116 spirit stones to buy 9 maids. At White Jade Tower, you truly get what you pay for. After handing over the remaining spirit stones, Lu Changsheng took the spiritual contracts of the 7 women, left White Jade Tower with them, and went back to his residence. Walking down the street with the 7 enticing maids following him made Lu Changsheng turn many heads. Who is that young master? To be out and about with 7 charming lasses. Don't know him. He must be a young master from some family. Seems to be the new boss of the Qing Zhu Lu family spirit talisman shop. That's the life I dream of. Oomph. They're just ordinary mortal women. I could have as many of such women as I want. Look at their appearance, figure, and demeanor. They're obviously not average worldly women. I just saw him come out of White Jade Tower. Must have bought them there. To be rich, how nice. Indulging in pleasure in women. How can one cultivate in such a state? Exactly. This is nothing but decadent behavior. Passers-by looked at Lu Changsheng with envy and jealousy, disdain, or measured up Lu Changsheng with different expressions. Many women also gave Lu Changsheng sidelong glances, and upon seeing his handsome face, tall and straight stature, and his composed and gentle demeanor, their eyes lit up with interest. Some female cultivators even mustered the courage to approach Lu Changsheng and struck up a conversation, asking whether he was married or if he had any intentions of taking a wife. Faced with such forward propositions, although Lu Changsheng was somewhat tempted, he declined them all. He stated he was already married and had no intentions of taking another wife at this time, though he might consider concubines and maids. His caution wasn't just personal prudence towards marriage. He also had considerations towards the Lu family. In his view, taking a few concubines and buying some maids to serve him was one thing. But constantly taking new wives would be disrespectful towards Lu Miaoyun and the Lu family. After all, it had been less than a year since he married Lu Miaoyun. Shortly thereafter, Lu Changsheng quickly returned home with the 7 women. Looks like in the future, when buying maids from White Jade Tower, he'll either bring them back in batches or have White Jade Tower deliver them directly to my home. Otherwise, this kind of situation is a bit too conspicuous. Not only does it feel like being watched like a monkey, but it could even lead to being targeted as a fat sheep. Back home, Lu Changsheng reflected inwardly. Regarding the envious glances and propositions from the passers-by on the road, he didn't feel any bit of swagger. Instead, he felt uneasy, worried about becoming a target. Little Qing, Xiao Yuyao, and Guan Xian, seeing their young master bringing back 7 delightful maids all at once, didn't know what to say for a moment. But remembering Lu Changsheng's abundant energy at night, they soon came to terms with it, knowing that before long, all 7 would likely be pregnant. From now on, you'll be called Yilian, you'll be called Hong Mian, you'll be called Zimei, you'll be called Song Lan. And at this moment, Lu Changsheng began naming his newly arrived 7 maids. The previous 2 maids he had named Haidang and Bai He, so he thought it would be good to unify the names. Yes, master. These maids were all very sensible. That night, Lu Changsheng also began to understand and experience the exceptional treasures that Lu Miaoqing once mentioned. Chapter 101. Dare 2 mere energy refinement late stage cultivators to ambush me? _1. Sister Miaoga. Miaoya might give birth in a few days, so I plan to leave for Qingzhou Mountain today. That day, Lu Changsheng went to the spiritual talisman shop and said to Lu Miaoga. He had already discussed this matter with Lu Miaoga before, planning to go back these 2 months in advance, to try to be there when Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zenshin's child is born. All right, be careful on your way. We'll keep an eye on the shop here. Hearing this, Lu Miaoga nodded slightly and spoke softly. After saying farewell to Lu Miaoga, Lu Changsheng left 9 Dragons Marketplace alone, mounted the Iron Feather Eagle, and embarked on his journey to Qingzhou Mountain. Just as Lu Changsheng was exiting the gates of 9 Dragons Marketplace, at a restaurant nearby, a lean middle-aged man revealed a trace of unusual brightness in his eyes and took out a transmission talisman from his person. High above the clouds, an Iron Feather Eagle sword. Could it be that something unexpected will happen on my way home alone? Sitting cross-legged on the Iron Feather Eagle, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but worry. It was all right when he was with Lu Miaoga. It was only his first trip to 9 Dragons Market that he worried about potential mishaps. But after 2 round trips, he felt much better. Suddenly traveling alone now made him feel a bit uneasy again. Sigh, I really am a person who fears death and lacks a sense of security. Even with 34 superior grade talismans, 1 supreme talisman, and a talisman treasure on me, I still feel insecure. Lu Changsheng shook his head slightly, with a clear understanding of himself. After the Iron Feather Eagle flew for half a day, The unease in Lu Changsheng's heart calmed down a lot. He thought, how could there be so many dangers? However, just at that moment, Screech, the iron feather eagle, soaring through the clouds, seemed to be stimulated by something, letting out a sharp and noisy cry. It made Lu Changsheng, who was sitting quietly on its back, feel his heart leap. Before he could understand what was happening, the iron feather eagle spread its wings and dove towards a mountain peak below. What's going on? Lu Changsheng quickly grabbed the iron feather eagle's feathers to avoid being thrown off and took out the beast control token. Through the beast control token, he could sense an anxious and restless emotion coming from the iron feather eagle, as if something on the mountain peak ahead was luring it. Could it be that there's some rare treasure or spirit fruit maturing on that mountain peak? Lu Changsheng's first thought was that. However, he didn't entertain such thoughts, because it is recorded in the books that when most rare treasures and exotic fruits mature, powerful demon beasts will be guarding them. It wasn't something a mere 4th-level Qi refinement weakling, could contemplate. Lu Changsheng didn't think any further. He immediately used the beast control token to soothe the iron feather eagle and commanded it to continue flying on the path. The iron feather eagle, which was diving towards the mountain peak, hesitated slightly at his command. But the next moment, it let out an even noisier cry from its beak and furiously dove towards the mountain peak ahead. This is definitely not the maturation of some rare treasure. The iron feather eagle, having been tamed, would normally never disobey an order and go out of control under normal circumstances. Lu Changsheng's face darkened, holding tightly to the iron feather eagle, realizing something was not quite right. But facing this situation, he didn't know how to handle the emergency. As the iron feather eagle got closer and closer to the mountain peak, suddenly swoosh, swoosh, 2 sounds of slicing through the air rang out. Lu Changsheng immediately saw 2 sword lights shooting towards him like rainbows. The cold gleam of sword qi breathed in and out in the air, emitting a buzzing sound that intimidated the soul. Not good. In that moment, even if Lu Changsheng was slow to react, he realized that he was being ambushed. He understood why the iron feather eagle had suddenly gone out of control. Without waiting to think more, 2 flying swords were already coming at him, one before the other. Clang! Clang! When the 2 flying swords neared his body, he saw a green qi barrier appearing around him, accompanied by the rustling sound of his magical robe fluttering and a pale light from the spirit pendant on his chest, forming a water-blue shield, stopping the 2 flying swords outside. These were the passive body-protecting techniques of his robe's magic artifact and the spirit pendant. However, under the onslaught of the flying swords, both protective techniques dimmed considerably. Lu Changsheng's face darkened. Without time to be scared or hesitate, he immediately took out a talisman from his storage bag. He used a flying ascension talisman and a golden light barrier talisman on himself, causing the wind to rise under his feet and a sense of lightness to envelop him, allowing for brief flight, and a thick layer of golden bell enveloped him. Clang! Clang! The 2 sharp, rainbow-like flying swords struck at Lu Changsheng again, colliding with the bell and producing 2 sonorous metallic sounds. Even with the protection of the golden bell shield talisman, Lu Changsheng felt a great force shock his body. But the shock didn't harm him. It merely made him somewhat unsteady on the back of the iron feather eagle. Escape! Without hesitation, Lu Changsheng, aided by the flying ascension talisman, leaped into the air from the back of the iron feather eagle and fled in the opposite direction. Now that he knew someone was setting him up, he also roughly guessed why the iron feather eagle lost control and was frantically diving towards the mountain peak. It was certainly not because of some exotic fruit maturing. It was a demon-attracting fragrance, a kind of incense made specifically for demon beasts. It was capable of attracting demon beasts, making those with little spiritual intelligence be instinctively drawn by it, filled with wildness. Many hunters and cultivators would use demon-attracting fragrance to lure and hunt demon beasts. The way the iron feather eagle was behaving, it was most likely affected by the demon-attracting fragrance. Chapter 102. Two mere energy refinement late stage cultivators dare to ambush me. So he had no choice but to abandon it. Trying to run. Where do you think you're going? I've been squatting on you for so long. Did you really think you could escape? Seeing Lu Changsheng try to flee with the help of a flying ascension talisman, two figures, one fat and one skinny, immediately shot up into the sky from the mountain peak where the iron feather eagle was diving. They were stepping on a round flying artifact, rapidly pursuing Lu Changsheng, controlling a flying artifact. Both these men are at the energy refinement late stage. When Lu Changsheng saw the two figures that appeared, his heart sank once again. He knew that with the speed granted by the flying ascension talisman, he would never be able to outrun these two men. He decided to land on the spot and try to escape using an escape talisman. This kid was able to pull out 3 superior grade talismans. He must have other life-saving talismans on him. We absolutely cannot let him get away. However, these two were not simple characters. Both their eyesight and techniques were exceedingly shrewd. While chasing Lu Changsheng with the flying artifact, they controlled 2 flying swords to continue attacking him, blocking his escape route. They also cast various spells, treating him like a live target, causing the golden light around Lu Changsheng to rapidly dim. This won't work. In this situation, it's difficult to even land. Lu Changsheng knew that he was a live target. To rely on talismans to hold on until he landed and then try to escape using another talisman was very unlikely. Moreover, he didn't know whether the other two had other means of pursuit. The best plan was to retaliate and kill the 2 men. So what if it's the energy refinement late stage? They're just 2 energy refinement late stage cultivators. With the talismans and talisman treasures I have on me, should I be afraid of those at the energy refinement late stage? With a fierce look in his eyes, Lu Changsheng promptly applied another golden bell shield talisman to himself, ready to counterattack. Another golden bell shield talisman? This kid is just a middle-grade talisman master. How can he have so many superior grade talismans? Indeed a fat sheep. All that waiting hasn't been in vain. The fat and skinny duo, seeing this, had their eyes gleaming sharply, filled with greed and viciousness. Just as they intensified their offensive, Lu Changsheng also turned around and threw out a batch of talismans. All of them were middle and lower grade talismans, about 20 in total. This was the most Lu Changsheng could stimulate at once with his mental spirit. Any more than that, and he wouldn't be able to control them properly. Under the control of Lu Changsheng's mental spirit and spiritual power, these talismans transformed into fireballs, rolling boulders, ice spikes, wind blades, sharp arrows, cold winds. With a ferocious momentum, they all howled towards the fat and tall duo. So many talismans. The dark fat man, upon seeing this, was shocked and hurriedly brought out an earthy yellow shield magic artifact to block this overwhelming offensive. Lu Changsheng's talismans hit the shield, only creating thuds. While resisting the attack, the dark fat man called out to the skinny white man, "Stop dilly-dallying, get rid of this kid quickly. Otherwise, if we let him use up all his talismans, we'll be at a huge loss." In their eyes, everything on Lu Changsheng was as good as in their pockets. Every talisman used was like spending their money. The skinny white man didn't reply, but he harbored the same thoughts, his eyes flashing dangerously. He slapped his storage bag, and with a spell gesture, summoned a cold, gleaming curved saber magic artifact. Like a crescent moon, the curved saber flew towards Lu Changsheng with a swiftness that cut through the air. However, at this moment, Lu Changsheng also applied another golden light barrier talisman on himself, and simultaneously cast 3 more talismans. The previous assortment of middle and lower grade talismans was just the appetizer. It was merely to distract them for a moment. Now was the main event. A sound like thunder rumbled through the void, causing the air to tremble slightly. Superior grade talisman, soul-shaking talisman. It was designed to shock the mental spirit of others, inducing panic, fear, and unease. The The soul-shaking talisman, used by Xianxia, caught the fat and skinny duo somewhat off guard. In that moment, their minds went blank, overwhelmed by fear, and they were momentarily dazed. However, right in that instant, boom, boom, two talismans flew out, enshrouded in purple lightning, turning into two violent thunderstrikes aimed at the two men. Superior Grade Talisman, Thunder Summoning Talisman. It could summon a thunderstrike comparable to a 9th-level energy refinement cultivator strike. Even normally, the two men would struggle to cope with such a thunder-summoning talisman. Especially now, caught off guard by the soul-shaking talisman, their mental spirits compromised. Boom, boom. The shield magic artifact that the dark fat man had summoned, already barely holding up under the relentless barrage of talismans, could hardly block it all. When a thunderstrike hit, the earthy yellow shield flew straight out of his hands, and while he was still not back to his senses, was overwhelmed by the talisman offensive. The skinny white man, with a somewhat stronger will and mental spirit, quickly regained his composure. His eyes flashed with lightning, and he frantically generated a body-protecting chi barrier around himself. But at that moment, it was already too late. No. The body-protecting chi barrier shattered like flimsy paper under the ferocious attack of the thunder-summoning talisman. Soon after, the man let out a roar of unwillingness and disbelief. Suddenly, two char bodies fell from the sky. Both bodies turned to char, crumbling into ash and midair. The curved saber magic artifact that was still attacking Xianxia's golden light barrier lost spiritual power support and fell straight down from the sky. They're dead just like that? Holding the Thunder Talisman and Golden Light Barrier Talisman treasure, Xianxia, still ready to continue, saw that the two men were turned to char under the attack of the Thunder Summoning Talisman and fell from the sky. He was momentarily stunned. It was just getting started, and the two men were already gone. But in an instant, he understood clearly that the battles between cultivators often ended in the blink of an eye. You're tuning in to the Eternal Immortal Ballad YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.